Hello, everybody. Welcome on the French Waking Crew. I'm here tonight with Mr. Ned Dehan and Mr. Drew Beeson. How are you, guys?
Good.
I'm doing
Uh,
just fine.
We are here today to make a deep dive analysis of the interview that Don Cheney and Santo Panzarella has made on the documentary. His name was Arthur Leigh Allen. So I want to tell you that we are not expert. We are not expert in this kind of stuff. We will just try to share with you our thoughts about what they said and their behaviors, and so, but we are not as expert in that. So we will try to do our best, and if you are not agree, you can comment in the chat. We are here for that, to respond to your question. And if you are not agree with something, tell tell it in the comment section, and we will try to respond to your question. So, um, guys, do you want to start with the questionnaire that Drew sent to me, or the question that we have in the chat?
Your show,
I would.
Jerome. Whatever you want to do.
Okay, I'll put this one first. Drew, can you see it?
Cat Daddy, you already know what it is, but
Ah,
I'm a
the
Cheney
question
guy.
is,
I've always
Drew.
been a Cheney guy. Yeah, go ahead
The
and read it.
question is, Drew, give us a brief synopsis of your who is the Zodiac and who is slash the partner
So,
slash or the conspirators.
conspirators, yeah. Of course, I'm a Cheney guy. It's how I came into it. Ned's known this for a long time. Actually, the first time I heard my name on YouTube was uttered by Ned Dehan, which was really cool because I didn't know Ned at the time, and he was talking about me, and it was really kind of neat because I thought, oh, somebody's actually reading something I wrote. So that was I don't know, that was years ago, but obviously I got to know Ned really well. You too. So I thought maybe I was onto something, but it's the way I came into the case. Of course, I didn't even watch the Fincher film when it came out. I knew about Zodiac, but I wasn't a long time uh, follower of it. But I met a friend here locally, and he just brought up out of nowhere. He goes, "Hey, you follow the Zodiac?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know a little bit about it." And that kind of prompted me to do a podcast with him that turned out really well because he was an audio engineer, had a nice setup in his house. And just watching things on YouTube, I watched, of course, his name was Arthur Leigh Allen. Of course, it cast of characters in that documentary that it came out with the Fincher film in 2007. And I kind of locked into Cheney because everything he said was just so outrageous, licking Arthur Leigh Allen stamps, of course, famously. So that's how I came
Yeah,
into it, and that's how I got kind of influenced by the whole thing. And in the years that I, wrote a book about it, Cheney being, who I believe invented the Zodiac persona, as we call it sometimes, because I think the Zodiac is more than, a lot of people like to think of it just one person committing all the crimes and writing all the letters and all the ciphers. I think it's more involved in that. I think it's, there's more going on. A duo or maybe a different attacker at Lake Herman Road. I'm not really hard and fast on this is Cheney at every crime. I'm definitely open to that, but I think he definitely has involvement, like most people believe, because he forever changed his case when he, brings forward his friend Arthur Leigh Allen in July of 1971. He totally changed the way we look at this today because Arthur Leigh Allen still
absolutely.
stands
Yeah,
strong as the prime suspect, and you can't change that. So I'd say I think Cheney was the driver of the Zodiac persona. I think he planned it for a long time. I think when he met Arthur Leigh Allen, he kind of saw somebody that he could kind of be in cahoots with. I think I would call him a somewhat of a patsy and a co-conspirator. I don't know the exact dynamic. I wish I did. Was there's some things we'll never know. But I think Cheney was the creator of the Zodiac persona. I think he did the ciphers. He's more mathematically inclined than Arthur Leigh Allen. I think this could have started like he even tried to admit to once. I think he puts in some truth with fiction, but he could have been with Arthur Leigh Allen talking about creating a book or something and killing couples on lovers' lanes, and maybe Cheney decides to act on this, and Allen just thinks they're going to take credit for other people's crimes. It wasn't an actual participant in the crimes. So that's kind of where I stand. I think Allen is, I would call, a co-conspirator. Jerome likes maybe involved with Andy Panzarella, and there's lots of good coincidences there that Jerome will go over. I kind of, if I had to add a third conspirator, I would say Panzarella, and then maybe a long shot, like I said, Fred Manalli. Fred Manalli interests me. I don't think the Zodiac is too tall. I think he's 6'3", very thin. Of course, the Zodiac was described as stocky, but there's a lot of things in McNally's writings that seem very similar to the voice of Zodiac. He could have known Allen, or he may have nothing to do with Zodiac. But if I had to pick a third or fourth, I'd go with Panzarella and Fred Manalli. So that's kind of hopefully answers this question.
Yeah, I think so. One other here. Hi all, I currently live in Pomona, California, where all these characters met. There is something fishy about the timeline. I've got question.
Well, I have
Yeah,
questions too, actually, and I would like to throw one at Drew. You said if there could have been the additional participant, the final participant would have been Fred Manalli. Now, what exactly have you found that could connect Fred Manalli to Don Cheney and Leigh Allen? Because Fred Manalli is the more famous suspect in the Santa Rosa hitchhiker slayings.
Correct.
Is it because you think he's a suitable participant, or did they actually know each other?
No, it's never been proven. I mean, when I say a third, I mean that's a way out. Just if I had to
Sure,
just
sure.
pick one, so I'm not hard and fast on Manelli being involved, but he's interesting to me. Like you said, he's more of a suspect in the Santa Rosa hitchhiker slayings. One of his victims was a girl named Kim Allen, no relation to Arthur Leigh Allen, of course, but Kim
no.
Allen was one of Fred Manalli's students, and when Fred Manalli was killed in a head-on car accident, he drove a van, and they found some drawings. I don't know if they found the drawings in the van or at his house. I can't remember, but
Yeah,
they found a very sadistic drawing of Kim Allen, and so he's I think he's a great suspect in the murder of Kim Allen, which makes him also a good suspect for all the Santa Rosa hitchhiker slayings, which, like Zodiac, you can't positively say any two of the Santa Rosa hitchhiker slayings are definitely the same person. I think there is some DNA out there in at least one of
yeah.
the killings, which would be great if they
Seen
could
that
test that. But McNally, if you read McNally's writings, he was a creative writing teacher at Santa Rosa Junior College. If you read some of his writing, it sounds the most like Zodiac. Like if another suspect, let's say Richard Gaikowski, had writings that were like Fred Manalli, he would be a much higher up suspect, because Manalli wrote "I shall" a lot. It was just part of his style, like Zodiac did. I shall do this. I shall do that. He used a few of the other phrases that Manalli would use. I know Morford looked at him really closely as a Zodiac suspect because of his writings. So it's not out of the question that Allen may have known Manalli. I don't, there's no proof that he did, but of course Allen had a trailer in Santa Rosa, very familiar with Santa Rosa, so it's possible that they cross paths. But when I say a third, that's way out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it could be both. He could be involved in the crime of the Santa Rosa hitchhiker, and he could be uh, involved in the Zodiac crime. There is
Could
no
be.
there. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, there is no uh, um, paradox about that. There is no. So yeah, it could be. I I have one other question. Ned, can you read it?
I have not read Drew's book, so maybe this is covered in there, but Ron Allen did not enroll at Cal Poly Pomona until 1964, per his LinkedIn page. Sandy Panzarella graduated from Cal Poly.
Yeah, he's going over the timeline. So I think they were all there in '62, and I've got one of the Cal Poly yearbooks right behind me, and Ron is in there. Of course, Don Cheney's in there. Oddly enough, in the engineering department, the mechanical engineering department, which Don Cheney was a part of. There's a Spinelli in the group, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if
Yeah,
he's related to Ralph Spinelli or not, but it was just kind
Ralph
of interesting
Spinelli.
that
Yeah,
Spinelli comes up. But I believe they met in '62 at Cal Poly Pomona,
yeah.
and they were all living
That
together in '62.
Right.
not
Because that's what
64.
That's what Cheney said. Yeah.
those guys were all friends, right? And that is what is like certifiable, right?
Right. Yeah, they were all friends. They were all living together. I think it was Sandy Panzarella, Don Cheney, Ron Allen, and I think there was two other roommates, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think I've ever seen their names, but there was two other roommates, which if they were still alive, would be great to talk to. But I think there was two other roommates in a house there at Cal Poly in Pomona. And of course, Don Cheney meets Arthur Leigh Allen through Ron, and I think that was probably as early as '62 that Arthur Leigh Allen was coming down to visit Ron at Cal Poly. So I think everything kind of happened in '62.
Yeah. That's what
Sounds good.
Cheney said in the first part. I will share with you guys. This is what he said. 1962. This is when I was with Ron Allen, Sandy Panzarella, and me was together. That's the first time he said. So, next question. Have you guys heard of Nuke Hoax on YouTube? He makes a great argument that the composite sketch of Zodiac is bullshit.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's Vincent. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he. Well, from what I know, I think he's really against Donald Fouke's description for whatever reason. And I know Fouke said barrel chested. He said, Fouke had a little bit of, I think, a little bit of input on the revised sketch, and maybe Ned can clear me up. But obviously, we know the initial sketch was more on the input of the Robbins kids and not Fouke. I think they showed the initial sketch to Fouke, and they maybe tweaked it a little bit to a revised sketch that Fouke had a little bit of input on. And I think he's most negative on Fouke's input. And I don't know if he was, of course, you could make an argument against the Robbins kids because they were kids at the time. I don't remember how old Lindsay was. Of course, Lindsay was the oldest at the time, but the composite was mostly built off of the input from the Robbins kids and not Donald Fouke. I think Fouke just kind of agreed with the sketch for the most part.
Well, there are a couple of things about that.
It was
As I
during the
understand,
night,
Donald
so
Fouke did not
Go ahead,
contribute
Ned.
to the sketches at all. And the other thing, though, is that Vincent really talks about is that, the Robbins kids just kind of got this glimpse of the Zodiac moving around a little bit at night from a window in the dark, meters and meters and meters away. So it's not going to be an extremely reliable description. The other thing that I think Vincent does very well on the New Cokes channel is he talks about the handwriting. When amateur sleuths, again, not the professional handwriting analysts, but when amateur sleuths are like, this suspect's handwriting looks like the Zodiac killer's. Well, the Zodiac was almost certainly disguising his handwriting at some point because he didn't write in the same style the whole time. So when they're like, hey, this handwriting looks like the debut letter. Well, someone else could just as easily pull up a letter from their grandpa and say, oh, well, this handwriting looks like the Melvin Belli letter. This person was intentionally disguising his handwriting at different points throughout the letter writing process. And full credit goes to Vincent McConnell, New Cokes 2024 for that. And, I appreciate what he does.
yeah, I
Yeah,
do
and
too.
like you said, it's a sketch. It's not a photograph. We
No.
have this argument in DB Cooper world. It's a sketch. It's
Yeah.
not a photograph.
But wait, Drew, that's very good. Let's stay on that because in the DB Cooper world, there are different sketches, right? Composites
Right.
A, B, and C. They
Mhm.
all look drastically different. If you were
Totally
to present
different.
me and we were like,
Totally
you think
different.
this is the same person? I would be like, no, get out. This one has the hairline coming down to his nose.
Yeah,
This one doesn't have it at all. Like this.
That's true.
This guy has the wide face. This guy has a narrow face. So with the Zodiac, why should it be any different? Why should people just go gung ho for the Presidio Heights sketch and be like, that's what
because
the
that's all there
Zodiac
is.
Yeah.
No, that's a good
Well,
point.
we have Mike Majot's descriptions. We have Officer Fouke's
Yeah.
descriptions. But both of those witnesses were sadly unreliable because they change. They don't exactly change their stories. Mike Majot changes his story a lot, but Donald Fouke waits a month to come forward. And then, you just really have to wonder, is he telling the truth or not about everything that he saw?
Yeah, Falk was odd. I was told this, and you may have heard it before, you both of you guys, but I might have been an ex SFPD officer. I heard it from two different sources, so it gave it a little bit of validity to me. But somebody told me that Falk was scared to death. Like Falk was really afraid for whatever. Maybe he thought the Zodiac was going to get him, or it's just some reason they said Falk was really scared overall. So I don't know if that had any influence on what he said or not, but he gives a description when right after it happens, and later he gives the description during I think this is the Zodiac speaking, and also in his name was Arthur Leigh Allen, but I think I heard that he was just really afraid, and for whatever reason that kind of maybe influenced what he said. I don't know why.
Right. Because one thing that Jerome wants to talk about today is the ABC murders by Agatha Christie, and we should talk about some reasons why Donald Falk should not be afraid of the killer once we start going through that part of the discussion. So I'm sure we'll come back to that in a second. That's really odd that he would be afraid.
Yeah. I don't know why. It was just something that two different people that either knew of him or knew another officer that knew him said he was just really scared and kind of influenced the whole thing. But, I think most people believe that Falk saw the Zodiac in the Presidio that night. I don't think that's debated too much anymore. I don't know, Ned, you might know, but is there still people think, we don't think Falk got a good look at him, or, I think it's accepted that he probably did.
They think that he didn't see him. I mean, based on the way that Falk and Zelms are driving and the way the Zodiac is walking, they should have gone past each other. The issue is some people think that Falk didn't actually talk to the Zodiac, and that the Zodiac gives up the story. Some guy's waving a gun over there, and he's kind of pushing them in the wrong direction, and they think that part didn't happen. But most people accept the narrative that they got the APB to be on the lookout for a black man, and then they drove past the Zodiac, and they didn't suspect this person because they were looking for a black man. And Thomas Horan, whom you just interviewed, he disputes that. Actually, he says that there's no actual record of that. That's more just an assumption that somebody made. I don't necessarily know all the details on that one, but
and then it
Mike
built
was
over the
saying in the
years.
chat. Yeah. Mike was saying in the chat, all of Ted's Bundy sketch looks different, and he's right. And it's the same in the case of the Son of Sam. I think there is
Absolutely.
six different sketch who doesn't like at all. We cannot even take two and match something. They are all different.
And that's
for
really
the
the whole can of worms for the Son of Sam case, because people are just absolutely saying multiple killers because of the sketches. And that's really the biggest piece of evidence. And that's just kind of the sort of the cornerstone that Maury Terry would use to build his ultimate evil theory upon, because
That's
of these
where it
different
from.
sketches. But it's really not going to be perfect. But here is something, though, that is mentioned in His Name Was Arthur Leigh Allen. As Drew said, Donald Falk does appear there. This is someone who is reported to have seen the Zodiac, and he states that Arthur Leigh Allen was way too big to have been the man that he saw that night. And firstly, you got the full head of hair with the crew cut, and Arthur Leigh Allen was balding at the time, so you'd have to say, well, he was wearing a wig. Number two, Falk says that the guy he had a round face, but not as round as Arthur Leigh Allen's. Because Arthur Leigh Allen's, of course, a very big man, 6 feet tall, well over 200 pounds, very moon-faced.
He was about 250 at the time.
And, those things I think might be a little bit more valuable. Now, Falk's credibility does come into question, and this is, again, Vincent on New Cokes when he's just like, if Falk actually saw the Zodiac, he should never have withheld this information for 1 month. And the leading narrative is that he did this to protect the reputation of the rookie cop next to him, Eric Zelms. And they're like, "Oh crap, we made a terrible mistake. Well, I'm just gonna stay silent on this because I don't want to ruin this guy's reputation."
Kind of fits into being scared.
Well, he should have been forget that. This is information in a murder case. This is a serial killer on the loose. Protecting somebody's reputation, that should have come second. And Falk made a very big mistake if he did indeed do that.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's likely he did.
And if it's not true, why to made it up? I don't understand to say I have seen this guy if it's not true. I don't see the point.
Well, this is something, Jerome, though, because people do make stuff up, and we are going to get into this a lot with
Oh
Don
yeah,
Cheney
yeah,
and Sandy
That's
Panzarella,
true.
and
People do.
I don't know why either. Even Jim Crabtree in the Myth of the Zodiac Killer
yeah.
documentary saying all these questionable things that don't really quite make a lot of sense. And to the credit of that documentary, they tried to call BS on it. But like, I mean, again, we're going to have to go through these things with Cheney and Panzarella one by one to just look at the whole questionable
Yeah.
comments and just be like,
And what's
now
true?
this
Yeah, what's true and what's
this
not
is
true,
false.
and what's Graysmith or not.
Yeah, that's what we will do now, and after we will come back on the question in the chat. So
I think it was 1962. Sandy Panzarella and myself and Ron were renting a house together, and Lee paid us a visit one time.
He came down and stayed at our place on a couple of occasions, and I got to know him well enough to know I didn't like him, and I thought he was reckless.
When he came in, he made a big entry with knives and guns and a lot of hoopla.
When he wanted attention, he would go to such extremes, like the story about the bug crawling across the table and him trying to hit it with a machete. It would just startle you, scare you.
He stuck a big knife into the middle of our kitchen table. Got everybody's attention.
He told me that he got fired from a teaching job because he carried a magnum under the front seat of his Austin Healey. And later I found out he was really he was fired for child molestation.
He was teaching trampoline to those little girls over there, and I suspected it had to do with them.
He wanted to be a teacher.
okay. Okay. Have your thoughts, guys? What do you think?
Okay, so many things to go. Firstly, I want to say that Jerome let me know that we were going to be watching this, and I've seen, of course, his name was Arthur Leigh Allen before, but that has been 5 years since I watched it.
Yeah.
And I watched it yesterday, and what I did not recall was Sandy Panzarella's body language and his demeanor, because you can even see Don Cheney kind of like moving about.
Yeah, moving,
Sandy
and
Panzarella
stay
was kind of
straight.
like not only stone face, he's just like, I met Arthur Leigh Allen, and I didn't like him. Not completely monotone, but mostly monotone. Not completely expressionless, but mostly expressionless. Yeah, his eyebrows move up a little bit. And I mean, I definitely think it's an odd way to present yourself in an interview like that when he is not being suspected of anything. You know,
No.
just some people talk differently, but I mean, this means nothing. This
He
means
has
nothing. I'm just
Parkinson's
talking about
disease.
Oh, it was?
Yeah,
He's got Parkinson's there. He's got early Parkinson's. That's why he speaks the way he doesn't have a stroke. It's Parkinson's that's affected his speech. I work with a guy that has Parkinson's. It's older. Yeah, that speech and probably even the monotone is all due to the Parkinson's. Unfortunately, because one thing I do know about Sandy Panzarella, he had a booming loud voice back in the day, but the Parkinson's took that away. So that's why he comes across that way. It's the Parkinson's.
All right, then I'm glad you cleared that up because I didn't notice it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. But
when I first watched it, like I just didn't remember anything about that. But just okay. Well, I guess that takes care of that.
Yeah, but
it's Parkinson's. Eventually, he passed away, but maybe 6 years after that, but a few years ago. But yeah, he had Parkinson's at the time. He just didn't do the twitching, but it affected his speech.
Yeah, I agree. But I've known people who have this kind of issue with their health, and they are not acting like this. They are not like Panzarella is. They have Parkinson's disease. So I don't know if he was like this before, and
he wasn't.
Drew. You can say that he was not talking like this before. You have heard.
No,
I
can say that. Here's a quote. Here's a quote from his daughter, back before he had Parkinson's, he had a loud, booming voice. Those are directly from his daughter.
You would expect so.
So
Somebody like him
however
running
that
like
helps
a
him, but
company,
that's
running a big company and such.
yeah, being a leader.
Yeah, being a leader.
So he wasn't always monotone. He had a loud, booming voice, as per his daughter. I think he had two sons and a daughter.
Yeah, but it's come from his daughter.
Yeah,
So
she
we are not
be
sure.
the one to know. Yeah.
Well, I
she
mean,
said
like,
that
you know,
loud,
who says he
booming
has
voice.
Parkinson's? I'm not going to be disputing that.
No,
Yeah.
because
And I think it even mentions Parkinson's in his obit.
no, not at all. But I know he has
No, I know. Well,
fight
yeah, he
against
had Parkinson's.
Parkinson.
Yeah, it's established.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't disagree with that. I completely agree. But I know people who have Parkinson, and they are not like this at all. They are not.
I think they're all different. I work with a gentleman that
yeah.
has Parkinson's right now, and he speaks just like that.
Yeah, there must be. Yeah, sure.
He doesn't have any of the the twitching or the or like Michael J. Fox is really affected.
Yeah.
Michael J. Fox is always with his head. He has the tremors and stuff. But the gentleman I work with has full Parkinson's, and he can't drive anymore. But his speech is just like Panzarella, and so is his face. But his mind is still there. Like you can tell with Panzarella, his mind is there, his memory's there. Same with the gentleman I work with. He's sharp in his mind, but he seems less sharp just because he's speaking slower and he's not showing expressions in his face. But it's and I knew him. I used to work with him 18 years ago when he had no Parkinson's, and he was totally different.
Okay, we are going to continue.
He'd like to talk about was red fucking people, which we call RF.
He looks like happy. I don't know if you have the same feeling than me that I have, but watch his face when he's talking about that, and it's really strange because it's really fishy. So maybe I'm wrong, but he looks like
knocked another leg off the stool.
His favorite thing was he'd like to talk about was red fucking people, which we call RF, and he had a real strong hatred of authority.
I don't know what you think about that because I think it's odd. I don't know what do you think?
I mean, that specific clip, like in the context, I mean, I'm not necessarily sure. I can't get too much out of that. But here's another thing, though, that I didn't catch the first time that I watched it. And somebody, I think it was actually on Drew's channel, wrote it out in the comments section that Sandy Panzarella is wearing Paul Stein's shirt underneath.
Yeah, that's an interesting
one. It just looks almost identical to Paul Stein's shirt.
I don't remember who first pointed that out. It might have been Tony Janelli. I can't remember. Yeah, no, it does look. It looks just like Paul Stein's shirt. That is interesting. That's true.
Yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up. It does look like the shirt Stein was wearing when he was murdered.
Which is weird because he's asking to come to make a speech in a documentary, and he comes from with this shirt, and
it looks like a victim shirt.
Who look like the Paul Stein shirt. And the second thing was really, really strange is Cheney, who don't recognize him, Panzarella, when he saw him. I mean, it's impossible.
That was in 2006.
Yeah.
Because I think they filmed most of the documentaries and stuff in 2006, maybe part of 2005, and then the movie and the documentaries officially come out in 2007. So I think that was probably around 2006 where they were going to meet because of the movie being made. And Cheney goes, and this is in Shooting Zodiac by Robert Graysmith, of course, which is a good read. Of course, it's Graysmith. You got to take it all with a little grain of salt. But, this is stuff that Graysmith wouldn't really benefit lying about. But he said, when Cheney walked in the room, it's just Panzarella in the room. And Panzarella immediately recognizes Don Cheney. And Cheney is acts like he does not recognize Sandy at all. Just so weird.
Okay, here's something else, though, from the clips that Jerome has just played. So they're saying this guy, Leigh Allen, was at their house, and he pulls out a machete, and he drives it into the middle of the table. And they're like, wow, that really bothered me. That really bothered me. Well, especially to Don Cheney. Why on earth did you remain friends with this guy? And why did you let him be around your kids? Some guy who pulls out the machete or the one Cheney said the giant knife and puts it in the center of the table. Why keep him around? I mean, I know he's
Good
Ron's
point.
brother. Like,
And notice
Excellent
notice when Panzarella talks about it, he's regurgitating the story that Cheney told him. It's almost like if you watch it too fast, you would think that Panzarella was there when he did it, but he wasn't. He said the story of Arthur Leigh Allen planting that big knife into the table. So this is what Cheney's already influenced Sandy about, because Sandy obviously wasn't there. And then he'll give some first person stuff because he did know Arthur Leigh Allen. He was a roommate of Ron's too, about the Austin Healey and having the gun under the seat. And, that's Sandy's memory. But the story about the knife, Panzarella's just going off of what Cheney told him. So we don't even know if that story's true. Yeah, it sounds like something Allen would do, but, this is all generated by Cheney, of course.
it sounds like something that Allen would do, but it's just like you don't have to stay friends with someone if you think they're extremely dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, this is really odd. I will put again this clip to people try to analyze.
Knives and guns and a lot of hoopla.
When he wanted attention, he would go to such extremes, like the story about the bug crawling across the table and him trying to hit it with a machete. It would just startle you, scare you.
He stuck a big knife into the middle of our kitchen table. Got everybody's attention.
He told me that he got fired from a teaching job because he carried a Magnum under the car seat under the front seat of his Austin Healey. And later I found out he was really was fired for child molestation.
He was teaching trampoline to those little girls over there, and I suspected it had to do with them.
That's good that you play it again, because you pick up something every time. I've seen this probably 400 times, but it's interesting because Panzarella's talking about, he later finds out he got fired for child molestation. Well, that was at Valley Springs.
Yeah.
That happened in 1967. So Panzarella is not even around Allen anymore whatsoever.
It's not supposedly to be.
He's around, in Manhattan Beach already. He's not even around Arthur Leigh Allen. He's just regurgitating everything that Cheney's filled him up with again.
Yeah,
they weren't even in each other's orbit when that happened. That happened at Valley Springs.
He was still in touch with Cheney at the time.
Maybe we don't know.
Look at the foundation of how Cheney's laying out the story, because this is the stuff that I remember very clearly from years ago, and that is that it's almost as if Don Cheney's narrative is fitting too neatly in to the already established Zodiac narratives, because he's telling people what they want to hear. He realizes that, number one, he knows Arthur Leigh Allen. He's a personal connection to him. Number two, Arthur Leigh Allen was the prime suspect of the Zodiac case, still is. So let's just kind of connect the gaps with things that are very convenient for him and for the people who are investigating the case. Then, it's always just when there's some type of suspicion, it's yes, Arthur Leigh Allen did it. Yes, Arthur Leigh Allen did it. Yes, Arthur Leigh Allen did it. And that just begs the question as, if he is lying and just making up these silly stories, why? Cheney wasn't writing the books. Don Cheney never put his name on anything like that, and he's not selling Zodiac T-shirts or something like that.
No.
He's really
what's the skin in the game?
Kind of in the shadows and comes out once in a while for these interviews. What's the point?
Right. Yeah, and remember, and Allen died in 1992, way before that shot in 2006. Allen's been dead since 92, and he's all more than happy to talk about it. So if it's a revenge play, he's still carrying the torch against the guy long after his death, and died with many people believing he was the Zodiac in 1992.
But in all reality, Cheney wasn't interviewed that much. I mean, of course, he did the interview with Tom Voigt. He is mentioned frequently in Zodiac Unmasked as one of the sources. I mean, he's mentioned extensively in Zodiac Unmasked. He did these documentaries for the Fincher film. But other than that, he's not. I'm sure there's some other things that he's done throughout the years, but he really is not in the spotlight that much.
Yeah, he was supposed to do America's Most Wanted, but he didn't. I think with John, I think they wouldn't pick up his hotel or something. It was he didn't make it attractive. Yeah. And he didn't make it attractive.
Instead,
John Walsh. With John Walsh. and they wouldn't make it attractive enough for him, so he declined doing it. But I wish
Yeah,
he
but he
did.
was
I mean, it would have
supposed to
been
do it.
more
Yeah,
material with Cheney talking. It's really
it will
unfortunate.
be
I really
great.
wish he'd done that.
Yeah, and it will be great if we can have access to the footage of the documentary, and I don't know if we can contact the producer or
I tried.
you have tried,
You know,
but
I've tried. Yeah, I think the production companies somewhere, I can't remember the name. They're out of Arizona, that would have any cutting room floor material from the documentary. You know, actually, maybe Andrew Knock could help me there. The guy that produced the documentary I was in with Horan, The Myth of the Zodiac. He might have some connections that
yeah,
could maybe make that happen, because I'm sure they kept it. Why wouldn't you? And as I know, being
yeah,
in that
they kept
documentary,
everything.
there's a
Yeah,
lot of stuff we did. There's a lot of stuff we filmed that just doesn't get in because you only have a certain amount of time and they want
yeah,
different things to choose from. So I would be willing to bet they would have a lot of material that they didn't think was valuable at the time or couldn't make it in. But somebody that studied Cheney like I have could really glean something from it if I had
oh yeah,
that footage.
yeah. It will be really interesting to have this footage, and I will try on my side to do my best to try to have this footage, even if I had to pay. I will pay. There is no problem with that. I Yeah, we will continue.
He'd like to talk about was ret fucking people, or which we call RF, and he had a real strong hatred of authority.
As we called RF. Why? Because they talk about that all the time.
Oh, that's
He
probably
talk about
something true.
red fucking
That's probably
people,
true.
and yeah,
Which would kind of play into the Kathleen John story, which I don't, obviously I've said it before. I don't think Kathleen John's encountered the Zodiac, but that would
no,
play into it. You know, it'd be something that would be easy to link to Allen because it sounds like that's true. When he talks about RF and how Allen would say that, it's just something I probably would lean towards that being true.
but that means that he was around Allen at the time, um, or around Cheney at the time, because he's not supposed to be there. So
Unless he was saying it
Sandy,
in 62
yeah, in
when he
'62,
would come
and
visit Ron.
it's the same time of the weddings of Cheney, if I'm right. 62. The
Yeah,
time
could have been.
he married.
Cheney's
So it's
married
strange.
63.
In 63. I was thinking it was 62.
I think it's
And I
63.
was thinking that
So he lives with those
was
guys, and then
odd.
I think when he got married, he moved out. So he probably lived with them about a
Yeah.
year. I think he's married in 63, I think, and then moved to another place in Pomona while he.
Okay. But we
But they might have
I will
still
check out
gotten together with
that
Ron, you know,
one.
and
Yeah.
He'd get even if he thought he'd been slighted or, something wrong. He was a very vindictive person.
Are you agree with him?
about Allen, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds like Allen.
Well, I don't necessarily know about that, but that is definitely a characteristic of psychopathic behavior. And I was just watching one of the Jordan Peterson lectures recently, and he talked about this concept of how, okay, so maybe somebody's waiting in line at the bank, and they think the bank teller is rude to them. So then that person just thinks, I'm going to devote a substantial portion of my life for the next week or month to try and get revenge on this person. And that's a characteristic of psychopathic behavior. So this whole concept of just, if there's something that bothers him, he wants to get even. I mean, I think more or less Allen had lots of sociopathic and psychopathic tendencies that could fit.
Rob said
Agreed.
Married in 1972.
No, he thinks it's 62. I don't remember the
We
month, but he got
we need
married. He
to.
got married in Pomona to a Pomona
Yeah, I don't know. We need to
wedding.
check out.
Panzarella was there at the wedding. The ring bearer was I know the lady who's the mother of the ring bearer at the wedding who knew John Cheney. And so I think there was a whole list of people that were there. Of course, his sister was there. His sister was already married at the time. And I think she had 2 or 3 young children that were at the wedding. The wedding was held in Pomona.
Married to Anne Marion Hathaway in 1962. So
Though,
if it was...
Yeah,
go ahead.
Sorry. No, I just wanted to come back to this one you put up on the screen from Cat Daddy Steve, where it looks like Don Lee Cheney was projecting. Now, maybe, but I think that he was just jerking people around. I mean, like, I think he's just kind of giving people stuff because he knows it's convenient for their narratives. He knows that they're going to put this in the documentary because it sounds like it's appropriate, whether Grace Smith or the producers would believe it or not. I mean, I think he's just messing with people. It's a form of trolling in a certain way. And, you know, he would benefit, I think, so much more from just telling the truth. Well, these are my experiences with Arthur Leigh Allen. I mean, unless his sole goal is just to get, you know, to be the person whom we're talking about on these live streams, I don't know, 17 years later or whatever it is. And that's just, if that was his sole intention, okay, then you've succeeded, Don Cheney. But I just, I just don't really think he's doing anything other than just creating a bunch of lies. It's a pack of slimy lies, in my opinion.
Yeah, we know that Cheney is a liar. So
yeah, but he's got too many lies. Which is weird that, you know, the Allen proponents, you know, don't like to go against Cheney. They're just like, oh, he's not that bad. He's telling the truth. Like, they really need the Cheney piece to make Allen work, which is always strange to me.
If all of these things that Don Cheney is saying are true, then absolutely he was the Zodiac killer. You know, like, I mean,
like Grace Smith says in the documentary, right?
Well, you know, if all of that stuff were true, but I just don't think it is. Now, of course, Drew and Jerome are going to look more at Don Cheney being, well, an active participant in this whole thing. The reason why he's lying is because, well, he was involved with the murders, the planning, and the design of the Zodiac persona. And it's like hiding in plain sight, as well as dumping the blame off on Arthur Leigh Allen, the whole perfect patsy theory that Drew put out very clearly. But I think the heart and soul of where I stand is just that Don Cheney is not trustworthy. He's saying things that are untrue for some reason.
Yeah, but this is really weird because
but why? Why?
Why?
What is his end game if he's lying? What does he get out of it? You know, that's what's so strange about it.
You mean other than being the Zodiac?
Yeah, other than being the Zodiac. He could just be a weird guy, you know, just you know, has a lying problem. You know, kind of like we talked about before, Ned, like Chris Kyle, the American sniper who had this great record, the greatest sniper that ever lived, but he would tell lies. Like, I can't remember what condition.
Being on top of the Superdome and shooting people.
Yeah, being on top, on the Superdome and shooting people, and then the deal never happened. I mean, and you're like, why? This guy doesn't need to make up lies. He's got this great, you know, he's a hero. You know, he's got all these accolades that can be proven. So why does he need to add to it? I think it's maybe borderline personality disorder.
But here's somebody else, though, Drew,
that can make you do that.
That's closer to the Zodiac case. Jim Phillips Crabtree, because in the documentary that you did, he says that he was a cryptologist or cryptographer with the Army, which apparently they tried to show was untrue, to the very least, to a certain extent. The documentary has, you know, Thomas Warren saying, that's bullshit. He was a clerical typist in Germany for a couple years. He wasn't a cryptographer making codes or anything. And point number 2, he told Darlene that she was going to get hell 9 times over, and the 9 shots that are fired at Blue Rock Springs. He is inserting things as well that would make him look guilty.
Yeah.
But if he didn't do it, why is that?
Point? Yeah.
The honestly answer to the question, what's the point? I don't know, other than some people are just disgusting attention seekers.
That's true. They admit to crimes they didn't commit. There's people.
I think no matter what, Don Cheney was a disgusting attention seeker. I think the purpose of this discussion today is like, to what level? Like, was he the Zodiac killer? Was he just some type of pre-forum troll? I mean,
right, and that's true. And there's people that are like that. That's not out of the question that somebody could just, let's say he's got nothing to do with these crimes. He just wanted to get attention, so he accuses his friend in 1971 of being the Zodiac killer. Wow, that's really going out there. You know, I mean, not just the little things he does later, but let's just say the first act of Don Cheney that we know of was coming forward in 1971, getting a hold of the SFPD, which of course we know that Sandy Panzarella spearheaded for him, because Cheney was kind of hiding behind Sandy in a way to you know, he was a man of action. You know, he was a business owner, so he's like, hey Sandy, I think my old you know, our old acquaintance Arthur Leigh Allen did the Zodiac stuff. And then you have to ask the questions, well, why did you wait so long, Don? You know, why didn't you tell people right when Arthur Leigh Allen told you all this? But that's a pretty big leap to do that, to jump right in. I mean, even if you're one of these people that lies just for attention, that you're going to say the guy's the Zodiac. Wow. And here's the thing, and then I learned a lot of this from Dr. Michael Sudduth, a good friend of mine who, you know, it was a philosophy professor and really smart guy, using what's called the surprise principle. So if Don Cheney is just lying because he's an attention seeker and he's just making this stuff up about Arthur Leigh Allen, the expectation would not be that the man he's accusing of being the Zodiac to this day is the prime suspect. You might be able to look at Allen now that Cheney's told you all these wild stories about him telling, he's told me he was going to be Zodiac, but you would not expect that the things you find out about Allen outside of that to hold for over 50 years. That is, using the surprise principle, that is a huge surprise, that the guy he accuses is still on the top of the mountain for suspects, despite all the new people coming forward over 50 years, that Allen is still king of the mountain. And that's not just because of Cheney stories. You have Phil Tucker and his wife telling the stories about seeing the ciphers in the little metal box, and Phil Tucker's wife wanting to borrow it. You have Tucker talking about Allen would say that The Most Dangerous Game was his favorite movie. Of course, that comes up in the first 408 cipher. You have Allen that would misspell words before the crimes for comedic effect, like Zodiac. I think Stefan Nyberg did a great job of just showing satirical and comedy, how he just interchanged the words. So that's great proof that Stefan found that the Zodiac was not a bad speller. He's doing this intentionally. So you don't expect that level of circumstantial evidence if Cheney's just going to say out of the blue, oh, he's Zodiac, because it shouldn't. You might be able to dig into Allen, find some things that relate to the killer, but not this much. For him to hold out for 50 years is not the expectation. So there's something more going on here than just, hey, it's him and I want attention.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, also, though, I've been hesitant to say this because, I mean, this is kind of blending a few things together, but some people, though, just want to be these types of low-level individuals that they get mentioned in a book, they get mentioned in a documentary, they get to be interviewed a couple times, they get their name put on forums, and that's it. That's all they want. And I'm not the first person to say it, but I don't necessarily know if that fits Don Cheney, because, Drew, I think you would agree, Don Cheney was smart. He's not just some dumb guy. Like, oh, wait, I think my friend's Zodiac. I got to tell everyone. Don Cheney was knew exactly what he was doing with everything.
I agree.
That's true.
100%.
That's true.
Well, Drew, though, I can answer your questions.
That's why he planned it.
I can answer your questions, though, once we get to the part about the ABC murders, and we can talk about it now if you want. But
yeah, we can.
Okay, so Jerome recommended that I watch the ABC murders movie from 1992, which I guess is part of an ongoing TV show. It was referred to as episode 1 of season 4 of a series, but it's a movie, for lack of a better term. It's a Hercule Poirot story.
Yeah, that one was well done. That was well done.
But it's all about this perfect patsy concept about how somebody has planned a set of murders. They know exactly who they're going to blame for it, and even planting the bloody knife on this guy, and he can't remember it because he has epilepsy, which causes him to forget certain periods of time, like spacing out. And in the ABC murders, you have somebody writing letters, making taunts to the detective Hercule Poirot, and he's also signing them with ABC. He's leaving signatures at the crime scene in ABC book, and this is all created well before the Zodiac. So I was just saying,
I think in the 1937, I think is when that book was written.
So it's reminiscent of Jack the Ripper because it's
very similar. Yes, she probably based it on the Ripper to an extent.
Well, I think so, because the Jack the Ripper wrote the From Hell letter that was sent to George Lusk, the chairman of the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee, and this person is sending the letters to Hercule Poirot, and the person, like the detective who's trying to solve the case. So that's kind of done in a similar way. But it just goes to show that there are these taunting letters that are mailed out with a signature, with a persona that has been created, but the entirety of this persona, the exact reason why this persona has been created is because they want to vilify a specific person. And his name is Alexander Bonaparte Cust, ABC. This is the ABC killer, but that's all done for disguise. You know, if it had been person with the initials XYZ, that person would have been vilified if he was suitable. Now, Drew and Jerome, you guys have had years to think about this, and I've heard Drew and Jerome talk about this before. Is that really what you think happened? That's what Don Cheney and Sandy Panzarella did, where they had this guy. They had Arthur Leigh Allen, and maybe some of his Zodiac stories were true, so they created this because they could blame it on him, just like the ABC murders. Create the persona, a persona that's connected to person ALA, not ABC, but ALA, and he would maybe take the fall, maybe not.
For me, that's my theory. Yeah,
it really could be. That's a good point. I agree. It could be. Like I said, I would not put Cheney at every attacker at every crime because there's anomalies here.
No,
that's why I was never ever a critic of Horan's theory, because you can't say with 100% certainty that any two canonical Zodiac crimes are the same attacker. You can't. That's what the police believed at the time, and it's assumed, but there's no fingerprints that tie any two of the crimes together. There's no eyewitness that says, he was here and he was there. No. There's nothing. I mean, of course, you have the phone call after Berryessa. You have the phone call after Blue Rock Springs. Similar. We're pretty sure that the guy who mailed in the letter with pieces of Paul Stein's shirt, which were 3 correspondents.
Yeah.
That had a piece of Stein's shirt, including the Belli letter. That's somebody that had access to Paul Stein's shirt, who was either knew the killer or was the killer. So I think it's safe to say the person that mailed in Paul Stein's shirt probably was the killer. But you cannot say for sure any two of the crimes are definitely the same person. No. So there's an anomaly there. So yeah, it could be something playing like that. I think ABC Murders is interesting because Don Cheney brings it up for Arthur Leigh Allen. He said, I know what his modus operandi was. It was in this little book. And he didn't ever say what it was, but I knew what it was. It was called the ABC Murders. And then you see that there are some, not exact similarities to Zodiac, but there's some. There's a character that works at a breakfast type restaurant that's similar to Darlene Ferrin. You have the different, like you said, they're trying to vilify the one guy, and they're going along to ABC. It does with the railway or something. It's been a while since I've seen it. I know you just did, but there are some similarities. The taunting letters to Perot. I think Zodiac was probably influenced by Jack the Ripper for sure, and I know you do. And that could be an interesting play. But just the fact that Cheney throws out ABC Murders is so interesting to me. Then you find some similarities in it. But, with Cheney, it's not just Allen standing up for all the years. Once you learn Zodiac and try to separate the two and see what skill sets does this guy have, or if it's a duo, but what are the skill sets? Obviously, there's drafting there, and I know Paul and some others would agree with me. There's drafting in those letters. I've heard from no less than 20 people that do drafting to say this person can draft, either using the graph paper or the bus bomb diagram. There's drafting being done here, and that's going to lower the suspect pool quite a bit. Of course, Panzarella knew how to draft. Ron Allen knew how to draft. Don Cheney obviously knew how to draft. Yeah, that's in the Zodiac stuff that it's hard to deny because there's too many people I know that are draftsmen that say there's drafting here, Drew. Celestial navigation, I see. Cheney had training in celestial navigation. Just all those little things he just happens to have. So that's why I just don't. I never ascribe to just this is some crazy guy wanting to be the center of attention. Of course, he wanted to be the center of attention. So did Zodiac, but not just somebody that made up, lies just to be doing it. But he did lie a lot. Like when Michael Butterfield interviewed Cheney over on a phone call. I don't think Michael could remember he spoke to Cheney once or twice on the phone. But Cheney told him this crazy story about how Arthur Leigh Allen was going to fly a plane into the Sears Tower. And that might have been before 9/11. So it's really crazy, but he would tell insane stories for sure, even outside of the context of Zodiac. So it's just one of those mysteries, I guess.
Okay. Though one follow-up to that, Drew, in Don Cheney's letter to Tom Voigt, he talks about how Arthur Leigh Allen killed somebody by injecting something into a dialysis machine with a syringe, and the syringe would not have been seen as a weapon. Do you think that was a blatant lie?
Yeah, I think that was probably a lie. Yeah, I think that was a
I do
lie.
too. That'd be another example of Cheney lying.
Yeah,
And
and another,
alone.
yeah, like the Butterfield example. Yeah, he would just he was a liar. He told crazy lies. But one of the things I go back to, of course, the whole thing about Cheney was moving his timeline. About the whole story about Arthur Leigh Allen, which shows that was built on faulty stuff, because originally he said this happened on New Year's Eve of 1968, and then he moves that up to New Year's Eve 1969 because somebody out there years later, when he first comes forward with the story to the police, he tells the same thing he does in the documentary and in the Void interview, where Arthur, I went over to his house. I was going to move soon. Arthur Leigh Allen told me he was going to become Zodiac. He was going to kill couples on lovers' lanes. He talks about when Allen drove him over to Blue Rock Springs, and then he come back around to Lake Herman Road, and he tells him what he wants to do to some girl there, and it's not pretty, and all this stuff. But when he originally tells that story, he said it happened on New Year's Day of 1968, not 9. And the reason he has to change that timeline is that somebody years and years later, I don't know who, found out that Arthur Leigh Allen had not been fired from Valley Springs until I think it was March of 68. So obviously that story's messed up now because Cheney's built it on, I went over there to console him for being fired from Valley Springs. Big problem, Don. Allen hadn't been fired yet. So that causes him to panic and move that timeline to 69. And I reread the interview with Voight. I got to draw Corky in here because my people freak out if I don't catch up on Corky. But he mentions like 4 times because Voight's actually trying to pin him down on that. And Cheney's getting nervous about it. And he says 100 times, no, I remember it. I remember it exactly. It was 1969, not 8. Because he knows that he's got to be firm on that date now, because that's his big misstep, is moving that date a year. And this is something, if he's just lying for the fun of it, why does he care so much to alter the timeline? He would just say, I don't know, I can't remember. Just go with I can't remember. But he's specific at now. No, I'm right now. It's 69. 67 must have been a mistake. And then, of course, in the story, he talks about he showed me that watch he just got for Christmas of 1967 when he comes forward. It's because Arthur Leigh Allen and his brother got matching Zodiac Seawolf model wristwatches for Christmas of 1967. That was verified by Ron Allen. That's another reason that story, that timeline is messed up, because when he tells it in his name was Arthur Leigh Allen, he talks about the watch, and it was in the little box his mom gave him for Christmas. Big problem, Don. He's already had that watch a year.
Okay, though, there's one thing that I need to come back to with the ABC murders, and that is that the motive for the ABC murders, not to give away too many spoilers, but sometimes you have to discuss this stuff, is you have this killer that's targeting people with double initials, like their name begins with A and A, first name A, last name A, first name B, last name B, and so on. And the reason why is because it's the concept of choosing a specific target and creating an unrelated set of murders to cover it up. Now, again, this has been discussed with Jack the Ripper as well, going back to 1888, that Mary Kelly, the final victim of Jack the Ripper, was the specific target for countless reasons. But also, how exactly would that fit into the Zodiac world if the ABC murders is actually used as a template? Was it Darlene Ferrin? Was it Cecilia Shepard?
It's speculated.
Or is this just something that is like
Darlene,
irrelevant to
because there's a character like Darlene in the story.
But
I don't think he would have. I don't think he would have followed it to a T. Like his whole method would be a complete, recreation of the ABC murders. I think it would have just been one of maybe many influences that he could have gone off of.
Something with is odd. I don't know if you think the same, but you have the ABC murder, right? And you have Darlene Elizabeth Ferrin. DEF. ABCDEF.
Right. I've seen somebody sent me that once where they could have made the ABC somehow. I don't know if it was Betty Lou Jensen, David Arthur Faraday. I don't know. There's probably a way you can kind of mash it all in there.
Yeah, you have ABC.
It's kind of a stretch.
It's odd. I don't know what you think about that, but for me, it's odd.
It's creepy.
Yeah, it's creepy. Yeah. Really?
Yeah, I've never tried to make the ABCs work. Somebody sent me one once that looked like it was pretty good. However, I don't know how they twisted it
Well,
around.
wait a
But
second. To both of you, isn't there some line like from Cheney? I forget what source this is, where Don Cheney says that Arthur Leigh Allen told him that he was going to commit these lovers' lane style murders at random, shooting people at random, so we would confuse the authorities and they wouldn't
yes,
understand what he
yes,
was doing.
that's in the
Where
documentary,
was that?
right?
Okay, this is in
He,
the documentary.
you know what? Because he's talking about a contract kill, and I think he's trying to kind of shade Ralph Spinelli in a little there when he talks about contract killing because of the whole Spinelli story about
Well,
how
yes.
Arthur Leigh Allen was going to go kill people for Ralph Spinelli, which is absurd. You know, I don't know why Spinelli would make that up. I think when Spinelli passed away, he was actually a pretty good man after spending 2 long stints in prison. But that's a good point. I think he's trying to kind of work the Spinelli angle in with the contract kill. But Cheney does say in the documentary that you would, one would just say Darlene Ferrin was the target, and the other murders were just to confuse it all, so you couldn't figure out that Darlene was the target.
Well, those wouldn't be random lovers lane killers to confuse the police. That would mean someone has an agenda and they're trying to be misleading.
True. It could. Well, the victims could have been random.
Yeah.
It's just they wanted, just something similar enough. Like Darlene, just an example. Darlene was the target, and I know I want to kill Darlene, but I'm going to kill this other couple not far away on, 7 months earlier on Lake Herman Road, or, that's just kind of not hard and fast, but just kind of like. But he does say that he does mention that one is your contract kill, and the others are done just to camouflage your target within, a context of 4 different murders.
I would like to share something that Drew had sent to me that I think it's really odd about Panzarella. Look at this. This is his company, Science Dynamic Corporation, and I don't know if you can read, but
Yep, they filed for a California corporation, which where Science Dynamics is,
August 1st,
based.
1969. The
Right.
same day the letter
May have been
arrived to
written.
the
Yeah, the debut of Zodiac letter arrives on August 4th, but it could have been written on August 1st. I don't know if they would know. I don't know what the postmark was, but I know it arrived at on August 4th. Of course, we call it debut of Zodiac, because it says this is the Zodiac speaking. Of course, in the first 3 letters that came with a 3-part cipher, he did not say that. He identifies himself on that letter that arrived to the San Francisco Examiner, I believe, not the Chronicle, on August 4th. So, yeah, it's interesting that Panzarella launches his company officially just days before debut of Zodiac. Before the official launch of Zodiac, you could say he's right there within days.
And there is a logo here of this company, Science Dynamic.
Symbols.
And here, and here you have the symbols.
Yeah, that's Panzarella's logo. Yes.
Yeah, that's strange. Really, I don't know what you think, but
I got you. 1 Zodiac, 2 participants, and the one that isn't filled in is the Patsy, huh?
Could be. I didn't even think of that.
Oh, I thought that's what Jerome was going on.
It was mainly just the symbolism.
Yeah, you have Sandy here when he was younger.
Yeah, very athletic, very nice looking guy.
With his stuff here on his belly, he looks like Beefy, but he's not. But it looks like Beefy.
He's wearing multiple layers, though, and there's clearly a pocket, though, on the belly. Like, that's a pouch there, right?
Yeah. There's a picture of him on the beach with a shirt on. He was a pretty fit guy.
Yeah.
He was very athletic.
Yeah.
There. Yeah, he's got some size on him, but he's pretty athletic, nice looking guy. Said he kind of looked like Joe Namath. You have Man in Black right there. I don't know what Panzarella's height is, but he probably looks like about 6 feet. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, but it looks like tall. Here we have.
Yeah, that man's shorter. He's probably 5'7".
Yeah.
By the way, Jerome, there are a lot of questions in the chat. Do you want to do some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And for information, I have take contact with the son of Santa Panzarella, asking him if he knew Don Cheney or if he was if he has some recollection of him. And when I have asked him this question on, it was on
Messenger?
Instagram. No,
Oh,
on
it's on Instagram.
Instagram.
Okay.
He has stopped to answer to me, and even now when I send to him just a normal question, he doesn't answer to me back. When I have started to talking about Don Cheney, he has stopped to talking to me. I don't know why. So yeah, Ned. Uh, yeah, I know there is a lot of question. Do you have pick one?
Yeah, Cat Daddy Steve says, question, do you think the Hal Snook theory is preposterous? And as Drew knows, and Jerome too, I first learned about the Zodiac hoax theory with Hal Snook back in 2019, and I was extremely curious about it. I never endorsed it, but then somebody in the comments section, just on Black Box Online Radio, encouraged me to look at the angle of Hal Snook as the Zodiac killer and not this being the hoax, because he's like, well, if anything, Hal Snook could just be the Zodiac. You wouldn't have to add these elements of the hoax theory in there. Hoax meaning that someone's writing letters taking credit for murders that he didn't commit. And for a while, I would have put him close to my top number one suspect. But over time, I really found that the evidence is kind of just going down a little bit more and more. And right now, I would just sort of say that he's in the back burner. Preposterous? No. Hal Snook has very similar handwriting.
He does.
He is someone who matches some of the physical descriptions, facial similarities to the composite, and all of that. The preposterous elements got pulled in where Thomas Horn was saying that Hal Snook wrote the message on the car door at Lake Berryessa when there's nothing to verify that he was there. And even Thomas Horn had to retract that because Hal Snook didn't arrive at Lake Berryessa as part of, the forensic investigations team until hours after the stabbing should have happened. So even Thomas Horn was saying that, okay, the killer was somebody who practiced his handwriting and wrote it on the door. That part might be preposterous, but there are certain things that would connect Hal Snook. Okay, also this stuff. Number one, Hal Snook really understood not only police procedures, crime scene investigations, and the newspaper business, because he worked in all of these things. It just, he had the absolute perfect kind of brain to create the Zodiac persona. But all that means is that he was really smart, and he was some guy who had a big career, and, that doesn't mean that he actually was the killer. And
I don't know. I have a little problem with Thomas. That's the thing that is right about some stuff, but in the same times, when you talk to him, he thinks that Madeleine McCann is alive and he can prove it, but he doesn't want because the FBI. He thinks that Maura Murray is still alive and he can prove it. But when I have asked him when he was here on the channel, how can you know that, and how can you prove that? Oh, I can. And I say to him that Thomas called the FBI to say everything. No, I can't, because I don't want to have some problem, so I keep that for me. Wait. That Maddie McCann is alive, and you don't say anything to anyone, and you have proof that she's alive, which is a bombshell, and you don't want to share with anyone.
I will admit, if I knew Matt McCann was alive, I would show everything I had. But
yeah, for sure,
that's me.
And you see, this is this kind of stuff who makes him not credible for me, because he has a lot of speculation and a lot of claims, and he's sure of himself, and he don't. I think he don't like to be challenged about this question. That's why I don't know. It could be the same with his theory about the Zodiac, because if he thinks that Maddie McCann is still alive, that Maura Murray is still alive, he told me, and it was in the show. You can check. It was during the show about the JFK assassination. He knew that Lee Oswald was the lone gunman. Point. I've told him, hey, Thomas, sorry, but I'm working on that since I'm 15, and I'm 15 years old, and I'm 45. I'm looking at this case since 30 years. And I can tell you that Oswald was not involved at all in the crime itself. He was there, okay, but he was not involved in the crime. And I can prove what I say. And he told me, no, that's not true. You cannot. Oswald was the lone gunman, and there is nothing to see on that. Maura Murray is still alive. I can prove it, but I won't. Uh, uh, Same thing for this poor little girl. No way. And that's why I think he's not credible. But it's not a clue. I mean, he could be right about the Zodiac, about Hal Snook and everything, and in his theory, he could be absolutely right. But in the same time, when he's talking about other case and he do this such claim, I have doubt. I've doubt about that.
Okay, though, but I wanted to go to this next question from Fire Pixie that says, how many of the crimes were actually in lovers' lanes, though? And I mean, because you brought up the hoax theory. Well, okay, I brought up the hoax theory. Well, Thomas Horn would say that there was one. One of the crimes was actually in a lover's lane, and that was Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard. Because, and I think this is almost universally accepted, Brian Hartnell would probably even admit to it, that he was cheating on his girlfriend with Cecilia, and that's why they were at Lake Berryessa. But with David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, we aren't necessarily sure if they were trying to be intimate together. And I just pulled up the name of the book. It's escaped my mind, and it's the graphic novel from Soleil Productions that just did like a Lake Herman Road section about their Zodiac killer thing. It's called Serial Killers #1: The Zodiac Killer, and they just proposed that David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen are at Lake Herman Road, and they're just looking at the moon, and they're talking about the astronauts and the moon landing. They're having a conversation. Now, Lover's Lane, does that count as a Lover's Lane? Perhaps yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're trying to be extremely intimate, because the car is so close to the road, and the headlamps from the cars would go in and people could see them. Allegedly. Mike Mageau and Darlene Ferrin, I think by almost all accounts, they weren't trying to do anything intimate at the time. They're just sitting in the car. And I think all of the physical evidence suggests that they're just sitting
Lover's
there.
Lane is just a couple in a car, really. It doesn't imply, I don't even know. It's just a couple alone in a car, I think, for the most part.
Okay, then, Drew, I can answer
but
that.
Some people can argue, was Lake Herman Road really a Lover's Lane? Do they consider it a Lover's Lane, or Blue Rock? I'm sure they were. Anywhere you could find a parking place alone in a couple of car, you could deem a Lover's Lane. So
Sure.
I don't know. You could almost make the argument that there was 3 Lover's Lanes here.
Absolutely. If you want to go by that definition, 3 Lover's Lanes, I think that, certain Brian Hartnell and Cecilia were, like doing things together. And, well, I mean, like with Darlene and Mike, maybe something was planned. I mean, it's so hard for me to accept that absolutely nothing was going on. There are even these stories about Mike Mageau saying he's in love with Darlene Ferrin. And I think it's his father, right, that says, what are you talking about? She's a married woman. Or maybe it was Steve who said that to him.
Yeah.
She's a married woman. No.
I think Steve liked her too.
His twin. Yeah.
Mike
no comment. Guys, you're sabotaging yourselves when you do things like that. I mean, what are you trying to say? You don't really want the commitment when you're going after someone who's already taken?
Yeah, there you go.
I know I said no comment, then I just left a lousy comment. All right, I'm done with
that. No, you are right to. No, you're right to talk about that. No,
well, I think Mike was in love with her. I mean, when you hear Mike talk about her, and this is the Zodiac speaking, he really has this affinity for her. Still,
yeah.
It's like to say that there's absolutely no relationship with them going on. I mean, they're going out at night. They're like together at midnight. Driving around on the 4th of July. Mike is wearing the extra layers of clothes because he doesn't want to look
He's wearing
insecure in front of Darlene, right?
Yeah, which is strange.
Doesn't that sound like he is someone who wants to be with her?
Yes,
now,
he was.
I get what Horan is saying, that they didn't go there to be like to do anything like intimate or sexual together. They went there.
But Mike was down if it happened. I think Mike was down if it happened.
Right on, Drew. Yes. But they went there to buy drugs, and maybe they were going to meet somebody.
Could have been.
Okay, fair enough.
They,
But
they
like,
have no money.
absolutely. Hmm?
They have no money, and they had no money. I think Darlene was have just few cents on her, and Mike have nothing. So, and we know
Oh,
that
yeah,
Zodiac had stolen anything.
No, he
So if you want
wasn't
to
a
buy firecrackers or drugs, you need to have money. If you don't have money, you buy anything.
Okay, I don't remember that exact thing. I remember that a little bit from Lake Herman Road that they only had
The
like
radio
spare
was on. We
change
know
on
that.
it, but-
We know the radio was
Yeah.
on.
The radio is on. Yeah, yeah, but they don't have money.
No.
Which is really strange because they talk about to going to buying firecrackers and talking about go eating somewhere, and they don't have any money, which is really strange.
But now I'm also blanking on this, but you guys have heard the story, right? That Darlene was going there to buy drugs, and she was even supposed to pick up some pills for her brother.
Yeah, I've
because, like,
heard
you
of
know, he was
that.
talking about that.
That's
And she wanted to buy marijuana. I think that's what. I'm just purely going off of memory. I don't remember that exact source, but
yeah. There's
that's
been a
why
lot of
she was
stories like that.
Yeah, I remember
Could be
this kind of
true.
story that she was in the witchcraft and she was
Yeah, that comes from her sisters. Yeah.
and she was smoking grass, and yeah, I think everybody was smoking grass at the time.
Yeah, all of them were.
all right.
Yeah.
Now this is important. This is important because you mentioned Darlene's sister. Let's zone in on one of them. Pam Huckabee, Pam
Pam.
Suennen, Darlene's parent sister. She is somebody whom I think has no credibility because
No,
she's just full of she's just full of hot air. Don Cheney
Zero.
has no credibility for the absolute other reason, calculating. As we said, Don Cheney is smart. Pam
Very
is just
smart.
trying to figure out, you know, like, I don't know anything about like what her IQ is or anything. That no comment on that, but I mean, she's just caught up in all these wild stories. Drew, do you think Don Cheney was caught up in wild stories, or did he know exactly what he was doing the whole time?
I think he was in control of his faculties. I think he, you know, he was a liar for what, you know, for whatever reason, but maybe all the other lies were just to muddy the waters. I think he had a plan. I think he planned it in advance. I think he made up the story about Allen trying to molest his daughter. I think that was kind of a fallback position for some reason, or to cloud things. I don't think that event happened. I really don't. I mean, I'm not downplaying it. I just don't think it happened for a lot of reasons. One, his daughter would have been 4 years old at the time. You know, Allen was a child molester, but he really preferred boys. He got caught with boys that were 2 that were 12 years old. That's when he got caught for one of those. I think not both, but one of them, when he got convicted of, he was sent to a Atascadero. There was no credible evidence of Allen ever going after a 4-year-old. I'm not saying he wouldn't, but it's just convenient that this incident with the daughter was touching her bottom. Uncle Lee touched my bottom. So it wasn't this full-blown act or anything. It's just so convenient that it was really this bottom touching thing, and that nobody was around.
She has
you know?
denied.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, she denied it. You know, of course, she was
denied
4.
it. Yeah.
You probably might not
Yeah.
remember what happened when you're 4, but you know, I think her mother would have told her if that was true or
Yeah,
not.
for
She
sure.
did deny
Yeah.
it as an adult, and it just doesn't really line up. I think he made that story up. Of course, when it supposedly happened, he told
I do
Ron Allen
agree.
about it, just like, "Hey, I think he planned to do that. I
Yeah,
think that was
why-
part of his. It was part of his plan. Like it was something he could fall back on later. Like if he got caught or whatever, he said, "Oh, I was just angry about this incident." So let's say the incident happened, and he's so mad about it he can't contain himself. He's going to wait 4 or 5 years, and then he's
Yeah.
going to accuse the guy of being the Zodiac for it. I mean, that's absurd. That is so absurd on its
Make no
face
sense.
that it makes
Nonsense.
zero sense. If you're that mad about it, you would have taken it on like a man and beat his ass, or
Absolutely.
at least called the police, which he did not do. And by his own admission, he still hung around with the guy. He still hung out with him after this alleged incident. I think he made that story up for convenience. I think he did. I think he made it up as something to fall back on. If he got, looked at, he could say, well, this is why I accused him, or blah, blah, blah. But one thing's for sure, when Cheney tells this story about, he told me he was going to be Zodiac. He told me he was going to call himself Zodiac. Cheney's running a real risk that the real killer, like OJ or something, isn't found. Like hiding out somewhere in the North Bay area. We find him in 1972, and The guy's name is Mark Davis, and he never
Yeah,
knew
for
Arthur Leigh
example,
Allen,
yeah,
never
yeah.
crossed paths with Arthur Leigh Allen. He's going to look really weird at that point. Wait a minute, Don, you told us that
Oh,
he told you that
oh,
he was
do you know
the
that? Yeah,
Zodiac. He's not
yeah, and
sweating. He's not
no,
sweating out at all that the real killer is going to be found. And maybe, okay, it's been 2.5 years since the Stein murder. Maybe he's thinking, okay, if they haven't caught him in 2.5 years, they'll never find him.
no.
I don't know. I mean, that's a risk, and he doesn't seem worried about it.
No, and I
Coach
think
Chamba says Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders. Yep, absolutely. They had to kill the
Yeah,
whole
I just made
franchise
that up.
out of
But
California for this
yeah,
exact
Mark
reason.
Davis is in the area. He's in Mark Davis is in Oakland. Could have
Oh,
been.
yes, yes.
I'll
They
probably
had
get
to
a phone
clear out
call.
the whole state. Slowly, all the teams are just leaving Oakland and going to Nevada. What a terrible world we live in now.
That's right. The Las Vegas
Like,
Raiders.
I loved the Oakland Coliseum. I actually said that on Black Box Online Radio. That was one of my favorite stadiums
Al Davis.
in baseball. And I learned since saying that the Oakland Coliseum is actually one of the ugliest baseball stadiums according to everybody but me. And I was like, wow, yeah.
oh, thank
Yes,
you very much.
let's see.
When Cheney said, he showed me the watch, and it was with the card, and everything was there. I believe that a scenes that stuck in his mind.
Yep. Showed me the card and everything was there. It was for Christmas. Big problem, Don. He's already owned it for a year. And then
Yeah.
he talks about licking the stamps. He had me licking the stamps for him for these letters. Of course, why would he ever bring that up? Why would he ever bring up licking the guy's stamps for him and putting his thumb in the ball of paraffin wax? And think about it. These letters aren't the first Zodiac letters. Don't show up till the end of July of 1969. The 3 letters that were sent with the 3-part ciphers. So he's looking at stamps for letters that are going to show up 7 months later. He's oh, sure, buddy. Here's my thumbprint in the paraffin wax. This is an insane amount of lying for a guy as smart as he is, just to throw all this insanity out there. The letter licking, the paraffin wax. The guy told me he was going to be the Zodiac, and people are, he's got to be telling the truth. I mean, when he obviously isn't. It's just you have to, like I said, if he's just making up wild lies, you have to separate out everything that Cheney says from what we know about Arthur Leigh Allen, separate Don Cheney, which is the Tuckers seeing the ciphers in the box, No Dangerous Game, the fact that Arthur Leigh Allen misspelled words, which is a very weird trait. But Allen could spell. He just did it for comedic effect. Like they found his grocery list at his house, and it said eggs, spelled AIGS. It was just where it would sound the same phonetically, but spelled wrong. Sounds like Zodiac, doesn't it? It's just if Cheney's just making this all up, he got really lucky that the guy that he's going to accuse has so much in common with the killer that we can find out that existed before. I mean that before he comes forward, what we knew about Zodiac. We already have
Nothing.
a lot of the letters here. We already have misspellings here, and then we found out, wait, Arthur Leigh Allen's been doing this for a long time. And here it is. Allen owned the watch.
Yeah.
So did Cheney just say, oh, well, he owned a Zodiac watch? I'm going to come up with this crazy story about Lee just to get my jollies in 1971. He's got a young family. He's just going to make this up. He's got police involved. That's a crime in of itself. Let's just say he made it all up. He's already he's got people investigating serial murders now all fixated on Arthur Leigh Allen. And another thing that I always think about, and I'd love if people who are alive at the time could remember, how guarded of a secret was it that the police were looking so hard at Arthur Leigh Allen in mid 71 after Cheney comes forward. He's got Tosky believing it's him. Of course, Bauer comes later, believes it was Arthur Leigh Allen. I mean, these professional law enforcement officers were convinced it was Allen. A lot of them went to their graves believing it's Arthur Leigh Allen. So if Cheney just made all this up, wow, he really won the lottery in picking a guy that so many people thought could be the Zodiac. I mean, because before he's just this creepy guy that touched kids inappropriately, got fired from Valley Springs. He had no police record, yet he's questioned in just 10 days after Lake Berryessa by Sergeant John Lynch of the Napa PD. No, sorry, Vallejo. He was Vallejo PD, although that was a Napa crime. Vallejo. But question about Berryessa, that of course was in Napa jurisdiction, but why? And I know some people said lately it was the guy that owned the gas station where Allen was, but Allen was talked about as being attached to these crimes as early as 10 days after Lake Berryessa, even before the Stein murder. So Cheney just must have won the lottery if he's making this up and choosing Allen, because other people involved with Allen were like, yeah, could have been him. I mean, what the expectation would be if Cheney just makes this up is that they're going to look at Allen and quickly ascertain that it could not have been him.
We have a question here from Mike. Can you read it?
Question: do you think the Lindbergh ransom letters have an influence on Don, especially the writing analysis part of it, making the Zodiac letters like Arthur Leigh Allen with misspellings? Lindbergh letters, I have no idea.
I never really. I know the Lindbergh case pretty well, but I didn't even. I never really read the ransom letters or looked at copies of them. Of course, I think Lindbergh had something to do with his own son's disappearance, but
me neither.
That's a good point. I'll look at them. Never heard of that.
Yeah, the same. I'm gonna have to circle back with you on that, Mike. Maybe I can share that on the next Zodiac Monday, which will be coming out tomorrow on Black Box Online Radio. But that's just a case that I haven't covered yet.
No, and that's a good question, and I was not aware about that. We will.
I'll have a look at the handwriting. I mean,
we will check.
Interesting. He could have been. I mean, he could have absolutely been influenced by Lindbergh. Maybe.
Yeah, he was influenced by a lot of things.
Yeah,
that at least Zodiac was influenced.
Ripper for sure. I think Ned agrees. Ned knows Ripper a lot better than I do. I think Ripper influenced Zodiac.
Well, the Ripper's also writing letters that are filled with misspellings. And, firstly, you have the serial killer that's writing the letters, period. Yeah. Letters that are mailed not even to police at first, but to the media at first. The way that the Zodiac is writing to the Chronicle, the Examiner, and the Times Herald, and the Ripper's writing to the Central News Agency. I mean, and also like this whole concept of how he's just predicting more murders that are going to happen, and they do indeed happen. And it's just... all that stuff is pretty much in line.
Okay, we will continue with the documentary. Because everything we are talking about, we will see it in the documentary. So,
well, it was on that New Year's Day, 1969, when we had this conversation, and I never saw him again after that.
Bullshit.
1969. Allen had already owned that watch for an entire year.
Yeah. And plus, it's just 10 days after the murder. So, and the murder was reported all over the place. So
yeah, and he was at the murder site.
Yeah,
that few days after the murder at Lake Herman Road. But he catches himself. He catches himself.
Yeah.
In this documentary, he's like, wait a minute, Lake Herman Road already happened. So I got to say this nonsense about, and then he started slipping into past tense. And I started to think what he was talking about had already happened. I mean, only the killer's going to catch that. He realizes he made a mistake because he moved his timeline. So he's constantly having to fix it.
Yeah, but it's really strange because even when he moved his timeline, it's just 10 days after the murder. So, and it was all over the place. So he must knew that he's on a crime scene. And Allen comes back with him on the crime scene to talking about what he has done. Bullshit. It never happened. Never
happened. We know his story doesn't hold up.
No.
The first thing we talked about when I arrived there, he showed me the watch. He'd received it Christmas, and it was in the box with the card, and everything was there. And he asked me what I thought of it. Was it a good watch?
I think Arthur Leigh Allen knew that it was a good watch, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. They were expensive.
Yeah, really expensive. And they're still expensive.
Yeah, they're like $1,000 watches. I think they were probably
Oh yeah.
$150 back then,
Oh
which
yeah. At
most
least
watches were like
700.
$10
Yeah.
in the late 60s. Timex or something, probably $10 watch. That was like $150
Yeah.
back in the day. That's
Yeah. So
interesting, Cat Daddy said Don looks like a functioning alcoholic. That's an interesting comment. Because yeah, Don was a drinker. I don't know how heavy. He might have been drinking when he died, because he fell off his porch in Benton City, Washington, and got hypothermia. He passed away because it was a cold night. I think it was November when Don passed away in 2009. But yeah, I think he was a drinker. And obviously, going back to Cat Daddy's comment, we know that Don Cheney got very drunk the day before the
the
scheduled
day
polygraph that
before.
George
Yeah.
Power, day before a polygraph that was going to take place in Tacoma, Washington, because Don was already living in Washington State and Benton City. So they decided on Tacoma to do the test. And he got very drunk the day before. So he was so hungover the day of the polygraph, they had to cancel it. And going back to somebody else's question, that's one of the reasons Bauer was very suspect of Don
Yeah.
Cheney, because of that stunt. He knew this polygraph was going to happen, and he deliberately got wasted the day before to avoid it. So it's obvious he's hiding something more. That doesn't have to mean he killed everybody, but
No.
he's more
Remember, he's
involved there
hiding
than he's
something.
leading
Yeah.
on. He's hiding
Yeah.
something. It's how
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
that
He knew
something
more
is.
than.
Okay, though, but we do have a question. We have a question from our Restless Dreams that's actually directed toward me. Ned, do you think Don's Paradise relative and Avery connection are just coincidences? Well, Restless Dreams, this comes back to the concept of being an unsolved case. If it turns out that it is just the Zodiac killer actually was Mark Davis, or John Smith, living in some other part of California, and that a lot of these Don Cheney things might end up being coincidences, there are other explanations that have been put forward. Paradise was the name of a motel in the Lake Tahoe region, spelled Paradice. And there are also other things about how this could have come up with. Thomas Warren talks about the slaves in Paradise from the Philippines. Could have been something from the Egyptian pharaohs.
Yeah.
It could have been something from The Strange Ways of Man by E. Royston Pike. This is what Jared Kobeck talks about. And he has a suspect named Paul Doerr, which is in a completely different direction than Don Cheney. Other people have provided explanations about how Paradise could have come about. And as far as Avery and Cheney going to school together, if that's a coincidence, that's a very big one. Well, these guys are in this. Drew, how many people are at Bakersfield Junior College? Was it 300?
Very few.
300?
Yeah, probably male students that in 1952, probably 300. Very small. The school in 1952 didn't even have its own campus yet. It shared the high school campus. It was Don's high school, Bakersfield High. They literally took part of the high school campus to make the college out of. So they didn't even have their own campus. So maybe 4 or 5 rooms. The odds that those two guys were in a classroom together in 52 are probably in the 90 percentile.
And these guys just go on to become the top reporter on the Zodiac case and the friend of the prime suspect on the Zodiac case.
Correct. And then while they're there to add on to the circumstantial, because crazy coincidences happen.
That would be very shocking, but it's possible.
Yeah, it's crazy coincidences happen all the time. Geik shows up in a cipher. Paradise that's a very unusual spelling for a surname. It's extremely rare as a surname. It's English.
Yeah.
There's only one family with that name that came into America from England to Canada down to Denver, Colorado. Which Cheney's relative, which Frank Paradise, a well-known architect, which he was related to by a marriage. It's very rare. But like Ned said, if it's proven to be Cheney, well, you could probably guess where Paradise came from. But if it's not, it turns out to be another suspect altogether, then it was a coincidence. But it's pretty startling that you wouldn't expect to find that many coincidences from somebody that just wanted to make, lie about their friend being Zodiac. You would not expect to find stuff like that. Of course, they did the Mikado at Bakersfield College in 53 while they were both still there. Another coincidence. So, there could be one crazy one, but here there's multiple ones. You got Avery, you got
Tim
Mikado.
Holt,
Tim Holt. Yeah, Tim Holt visits the college, the name of the
Yeah.
auditorium there at Bakersfield High School / Bakersfield Junior College is Harvey Auditorium, where Tim Holt comes in 1948 while
It's a big
Cheney's going to the high
coincidence.
school to visit to do a Boy Scout, like a Boy Scout jamboree in the Harvey Auditorium when Cheney was a Boy Scout. There's a lot of with Cheney that there's so many. It's not like just one. It's not just Paradise or Avery.
No.
It's
There is
many.
a lot. Yeah.
But Paradise
yeah,
would be
there's-
less shocking. Paradise would be less shocking because, as I said, about not only the Paradise Motel, but also, like a lot of us probably thought, even me, that, okay, this is the Zodiac doing his comedic misspellings, pair of dice, like, rolling
Yeah,
dice.
pair of dice, yeah.
Paradise. Yeah,
A lot of us probably thought about
it could
that.
be. Cheney could still be Zodiac, and Paradise had nothing to do. Maybe he's not even aware he's got a relative named Paradise, even though they were very wealthy. And it should have said,
Yeah.
well, here's another one with Cheney. And I cannot remember the name of the website. These guys were like people you don't see every day on the forums or YouTube, but they did this really in-depth study on Zodiac, and it escapes me. Maybe Steph or somebody in chat remembers. And they were talking about, they really did a deep analysis on some of the Zodiac correspondences. They started with the 3-part letter that came with the 3-part ciphers, and they really honed in on Zodiac saying, "I'm going to go look cruising for victims on Fry night, FRY."
Yeah, Fry.
They really studied that and thought, man, he's very consistent about the Fry, FRY. Of course, Cheney's mother was Fryer. Her maiden
Fryer.
name was Fryer, FRYREAR, pronounced Fryer. That's another one for Cheney because those guys were like, man, Fryer means something to him. And that's his mother.
Yeah, I agree.
Just there's a lot with him. There's a lot. I mean, you could cherry pick anybody and just look for more circumstantial stuff. But the case with Cheney is, and I even had the book written before I ever knew about Paradise, before I knew he was in the Air Force, before I knew about Avery. The book was already written based on Cheney's actions and words. Nothing to do with just circumstantial pieces like that. They were just icing on the cake. I had already made a case for him just on moving the timeline, what he says, his skill sets were far more important than just coincidences, if you want to call them, or synchronicities in this case, which there's a lot of. Let's face it, there's a lot of crazy, it's like Neil Arnold's handle. They can't all be Zodiac, like Geik showing up at a cipher. So it can't be Cheney and Geik, because I'm pretty sure those guys never ran into each other.
No.
And I know Richard Grinnell says two that stick out to him is one, Cheney having a relative named Paradise, and two, Geik showing up at a cipher, although that not being the way that Geik would shorten his name, but it still shows up. Geik is in a cipher, straightforward. So
But
coincidences do happen.
With Richard, we have we will do a deep dive in the letter in a future show with you and Richard, because I know that Richard is a lot in the letter. So
yeah, Druser and Richard know the letters very inside and out. And,
really
and I know Druser couldn't be on, and I don't think he'd mind me mentioning this, but Cheney is not a suspect in Druser world yet, but I'm sure he keeps an open mind. But a smart guy. But Druser did analyze the Voight letter for Cheney's writing and found some interesting things in it that he sent to me, namely the spacing of the letters, how Cheney would space the words versus Zodiac, and found a lot of consistencies there. So I appreciate him sitting that and looking into that. So he did a nice job of laying out, like he put in green the stuff that in the Voight letter that matches Cheney, and some red that didn't match Zodiac. But he did a really nice job analyzing it. Of course, none of us are handwriting. None of us are handwriting experts. We don't claim to be, but I think Cheney has some of the better handwriting, and it's always been considered that Hal Snook had some close handwriting. John Parr Cox, of course, Ned Covers had some very interesting handwriting. But Cheney's is a contender in the handwriting department.
But then that all comes back to what New Coach said that I shared at the beginning. You have to bear in mind that the Zodiac was disguising his handwriting at such, and maybe handwriting experts know a few things about that, but I'm almost not even convinced that they do, because you can, like, if you were to alter your handwriting so extensively, would they really be able to know that it's not the same person? And that's for the experts. So just for amateur sleuths to
Yeah, yeah.
compare sample A and sample B, that might not have. We may have never seen the Zodiac's natural handwriting. I would expect that he wrote some letters naturally, but it's hard to
But
say. If
look,
anything, maybe the envelopes would be the most natural because
Yeah,
yeah,
they're
that's a good point.
they're not as neat as the Melvin Belli letter, and they're not as sloppy as the debut letter. They're in between.
but look, Sherwood Morrill was wrong about Riverside. He had said that the Zodiac, the letter was fitting with the Zodiac handwriting, but we know today that it was somebody who was not well. We have sent this letter about Riverside and the crime of Cherry Joe Bates. Gerard Morrill had confirmed to Avery that the handwriting on the letter was the same as the Zodiac, but we know that it's not true. So even the expert can be wrong.
Oh,
Well, not everybody
absolutely.
accepts that. I mean, Ray Grant just released a video disputing those findings. Mike Rodelli has also heavily questioned the statement from Riverside PD. And as somebody in my position, I'm like, well, I know what you guys are saying, but at the same time, it seems pretty clear what they were trying to say, that the 1967 loose leaf letters, the Bates had to die letters,
Yeah,
were hoaxes. And that's
Right.
where I stand.
but at the time, Sherwood Morrill had confirmed that it was similar to the Zodiac handwriting, and he was
Yeah,
wrong.
he was
So
wrong
So,
too.
yeah,
even
I
the
don't trust
expert
Sherwood
could be
Moore.
wrong.
I don't trust Sherwood Moral or his
No,
professional
me
opinions.
neither.
Yeah, it's not an exact science. I mean, even a handwriting
No,
expert, it's not an exact science. I don't think
no,
much. I
But
don't even
guys,
no,
know
it's
if
even
not.
that's
without them,
admissible.
even without the Bates had to die letters, I would have questioned the desktop poem and its legitimacy until the cows come home, because this is just something that was scribbled on the underside of a desk. And yes, I get the RH could have some type of meaning, but
Yeah,
at the same time, it doesn't have the esoteric language of the Zodiac killer. I mean, the
true.
Zodiac's letters in the 1969 and 70 and so on, they aren't talking about oh, this girl's wearing a dress and she got blood on it, and oh, she feels bad, and
Yeah, it
like,
wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't morbid like that.
well, the
Yeah,
Zodiac's all about himself mostly. He might say something, the girl was
Yeah,
wearing patterned slacks, but it's
right.
like, oh,
yeah,
cut clean, the blood spilling all over her dress. Someone will find her next time. I mean,
Yeah, it's
he's
not the
not even
voice at
concerned
all.
about the victims. The Zodiac is so sociopathic that
Yeah,
he is
that
only
was.
focused on himself. It's like,
and about this poem, everybody expect that R H means something, but it was maybe writing something during the time he was writing on the desktop, and maybe he was catched by the oh the teacher. He was catched by the teacher. He stopped to writing because maybe RH is maybe just the starting of something will come after, but we don't know that. So
Yeah, that's
everybody expect that
it's
RH means something, but he was maybe in a process to writing something and being catched by the teacher and stop writing up on the desk. You see what I mean?
absolutely.
Yeah. So maybe RH doesn't mean anything. It's maybe even not a signature because
we'll
we
never
don't
know.
know the
I never
we don't
I
know
never thought
the
that desktop home had anything to do with
yeah.
Zodiac or even Bates for that
No,
matter.
no, I don't think. I think it comes from
Just some
an
bored kid
Edgar
in
Allan
class.
poem. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
Drew. Just a
yeah,
morbid kid in class,
yeah,
like
Yeah,
people did that
it's
stuff in
a
my high
bored
school
sick
too,
kid.
like scribble stuff on
Yeah,
the desk.
yeah. I think it was a kid who was inspired by Edgar Allan Poe, but I'm not sure because it's the kind of same, um, and I will not say imagery, but it's kind of style of Edgar Allan Poe. Sometimes, but I don't know. We will continue in.
He had the attitude that maybe his mother had stiffed him and given him a cheap watch. But the watch was a Zodiac watch, and it had that little symbol on the face. He'd been fired from Valley Springs, and I know that he really sent a lot of resumes to get that job, and he liked it over there. And he got fired, and it looked like he wasn't going to teach anymore. And I was concerned about what he was going to do, and I went over there to kind of pep him up and talk to him about career choices and that sort of thing, and started asking him what he was going to do. And through some conversation, we got up to a point where he was talking about being a professional criminal.
Come on.
You better think long and hard about that. He's gonna, but he doesn't tell anybody. Don doesn't tell even his brother.
No, he doesn't tell anybody. And
it's gonna be 1970. I'm gonna wait 2.5 years later. I'm gonna come forward and because it all hits me when I read about the Grass Valley murders. It just dawns on me that I remember him mentioning that line about picking off the little darlings, as Don says, as they come bouncing off the bus. Yeah, Don changes it to darlings. Of course, Zodiac said kitties because Don has to smart enough to stay a step away from it and not make it exact. He substitutes darlings for kitties, and that's what jogged his memory. So he goes to Pomona Police, and then he goes to Panzarella, and then this whole thing gets headed up, and they make contact with Armstrong, get down to San Francisco, and they interview Cheney. It's my buddy Lee, and then that changes the face of this case as we know it forever. When Cheney, if there were no Don Cheney, you're not looking at the same Zodiac case. It's not going to have near the mystique. It's not going to, even with the ciphers and the letters and the symbolism, it's not the same. Cheney forever alters this case when they make contact with SFPD, because Allen never goes away to this day. He doesn't. You can't eliminate him. I mean, he's like the drunk you can't kick out of the bar. He's there forever now because of Don Cheney.
Well, Fire Pixie says it very nicely. I can't be a teacher, so I'm going to be a criminal. That seems like a stretch. Yeah. Yes. Like that's like kind of like my response too, where it's just that's such a weird thing to say to somebody. Well, I can't, work in a school, so I'm going to be a serial killer. Maybe I'll use that to show off my street cred and get a job as an enforcer, with somebody in a saloon. But
he didn't need a resume for that. He doesn't need a resume for that. And and he wanted to call himself Zodiac. Like, I wouldn't have picked it. He's like, I wouldn't have picked that name. What were you going to call it then, Don? The
Omega Watch Killer? For that.
Yeah. He's like, I wouldn't have picked it. I wouldn't have picked it. What does that mean?
No,
he wouldn't have picked it.
He's talking about to be a criminal. He's worried about the name he will took.
He didn't need a good resume for that. He could do it anyway. He said he would give himself an identity and write letters to the editors, and he'd have a name, and it would be Zodiac. I told him, I thought, well, you could have a better name than that. And
you can have a better name than that. let me pick out a name that you can call yourself to be a real killer.
Hey, Drew.
It's absurd.
I'm gonna quit my job and I'm gonna be a serial killer, and I'm gonna call myself Zodiac, and you're just gonna say, well, you could get a better name than that. How about don't be a killer, dude? I mean,
Exactly.
It's absurd. But people watch this. People are actually, but when people watch that, they're kind of buying into it because they have all this lead up to Allen and Graysmith in the book, and they're like, "Oh, you got to be telling the truth." Like,
that's what I wanted to ask you. Like,
I don't
how
get it.
smart do you think Cheney was? Do you think he knew that all of this is
Very
BS?
smart.
He's completely aware of
intelligent.
it. But if he says it in this way that he is saying it in the documentary, that people in the audience and even the detectives are going to just go along with it. Like, this isn't somebody who's just kind of like chilling in front of the spotlight. Like this is someone who's just like
Yeah,
kind of on his
they
high IQ high horse and just thinking, what a bunch
he
of
is
idiots.
high IQ,
Yeah.
high horse. He's thinking
Is that
he
what?
is. He's thinking that I'm superior. I'm superior to you. I'm superior. You are all so dumb. You're going to go along with this cockamamie story that I'm telling you. Yeah, he thinks that. He's very smart. Made honor roll every year at Bakersfield High School. Hey, he went to Cal Poly Pomona. He didn't graduate because back then you didn't have to. All he was missing was his final. I don't know what you would call it. Maybe something the equivalent of a dissertation or something that a PhD would get. But it was he's a mechanical engineer. He had already practiced that even before he went to Cal Poly. But you don't get into Cal Poly if you're not pretty intelligent. Obviously, Panzarella was super intelligent. Computerized medical building, that's going to go nowhere. I mean, it went crazy. Big time company, Science Dynamics. So he was a smart guy. You don't get into Cal Poly. He was a mechanical engineer. You got to be pretty smart to do that. His Air Force, I have his DDR from his Air Force time. 3 out of the 4 tests they give him in different skill levels were all equivalents of like 98, 99 out of 100. One was like administrative, and it was kind of maybe like a low B, but everything else was like the equivalent of almost 100. Very smart.
And you see, that's the thing. I think it's just my opinion about my theory. I think Panzarella was so smart. He was so successful in his business. Then the police will never look at him. I think
it could have been why Cheney chose him to go forward with him.
That's why.
He had credibility. He had a lot of credibility.
Yeah. But I think there were. I already explained my theory. I think Cheney was the killer. I think Panzarella was the voyeur, and I think they were taking.
I mean, the voyeur. Yeah, they described the voyeur as very nice looking, and Panzarella was described as nice looking.
I think he was. I've explained my theory about the Presidio Heights. Then it was Panzarella were taking the cab till Maple, and after Stein go back 1 block away, and Cheney was waiting there. And I think it was prepared in advance. It was. I think it was that. I'm not sure. I cannot prove it, but I think it was something like this because in his letter he claimed, "I'm the murderer of the cab driver on Washington and Maple," but it's on Washington and Cherry. He was killed.
Like
so
maybe drove up another block or.
Yeah, but I think there is something there. It's just my opinion, but I think there is something there. I think Sandy Panzarella was on the cab and he got away on Maple. Paul Stein can turn on the right and he can turn on the left. There is house there. So he just have to move forward. And I'm sure in my theory that Cheney was waiting there. So he make a movement to say to the cab, stop. He enter the cab. He shoot Paul Stein. He goes back to, he cut the piece of shirt of Stein. And after, he goes back to Washington, no, to Washington and Jackson. Yeah, to Washington and Jackson, and after to Jackson to Sherry, if I'm right. So it was the first place that the cab has stopped, in my theory. Washington and Maple, you goes down, you arrive on Washington, Jackson and Maple. Right?
That's the way I understand it.
Why does the taxi go to Washington and Cherry from that point onward then? Tell me one more time.
Because I think Panzarella don't want to be directly involved. So he don't want to be seen on the crime scene. But he was the voyeur of the group, and I think he was enjoying watching real snuff movie. It's like a snuff movie, but in the real life. And I think he was the voyeur all the time and he was not involved in the crime itself. I think it was the Cheney's part. And for the information, they need to have Ron Allen. So they 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 stay in touch with Ron Allen to have a lot of information about Lee. And
Okay.
it's in my theory, but I could be completely wrong. But I don't know what you think about that.
Well, I mean, like, it's definitely a defendable theory, but you, to be very clear, you mean that you believe that Sandy Panzarella was the lookout, like doing
Yeah,
scouting, paying attention.
exactly.
If there's a problem, maybe he'll intervene. But it
Exactly.
sounds like you're saying he is doing this for the thrill of it. Now, he's not a thrill killer; it's a
No.
co-conspirator. But like,
Yeah.
but he is just watching Don Cheney commit these crimes. Okay, so I follow you there, but we have a question here from Dustin J, who says, did anyone question Ron Allen after ALA and Don Cheney died? As I understand, yes, Ron Allen has been an informant and source for Tom Voight and ZodiacKiller.com for several years now, many years, and that's just something that I've heard.
I have never heard that. I never heard anyone talk to Ron Allen after they died. Which
I
would
have
Phil
heard the same
Boyd
thing.
stated, and he posted that in the comment section on Black Box All Night Radio when I
Yeah,
did. What was the
Ron
episode
Allen
called?
I've never heard of it. I mean, obviously they Ron and Karen did not participate in the movie. I don't know if I heard maybe a
He
reason
didn't
why.
state any
But
years, but he says that, like Ron Allen has been an ongoing source for years, and he has been in contact with him. And I was just kind of expecting that was post 2000.
maybe, yeah, could be. I mean, yeah, could be. I mean, who knows? I mean, I tried to make contact with Karen. I would love to talk to Karen more than anyone. I tried to message her, couldn't get her. She's still alive, still married to Ron. Ron's got to be getting up there now. He's got to be like, I don't know. I'm just going to walk guess 85, 86. Yeah, he's in his 80s. They have one daughter. Still married, obviously. Still live in California, but I haven't heard them talk at all that I know of. But
to be completely clear, I don't accuse Ron Allen to be involved with these two guys. I think he was the source of information for Panzarella and Cheney to have a lot of information on Lee, and he was not. I think he was not involved at all in the crime. He didn't even know that his friend was a killer. I don't think at all. I think he was the source, but I can prove it.
It could be. I mean, with Panzarella, of course, when we talk about the coincidences, we'll just call them. I think if he didn't have anything to do with it, maybe Don, at minimum, Don in his mind maybe thought of him and Sandy as a team. Of course, the dragon card. We talk about the Zodiac's dragon card. It's Don Quixote and Sancho Panza. The one riding the donkey, and that's Don and Sandy together. Like a team. Of course, we get to do a
the dragon and the donkey.
Dragon and the donkey.
Donski. What do you
there you go. And it said, what is it? I can't remember what it said, but the last line is your ass is dragging or whatever. But Don Quixote and Sancho Panza, of course, from the famous book, Don Quixote. That's just one interesting piece. So if he's not involved, Don is at least thinking of himself as some form of team. Of course, we know Panzarella's son has a company that he started called Quixote Films, which is interesting. So many things tie in to the whole thing. Of course, we talk about the Scotch tape letter. My name can be found on the Scotch tape lid, which says St. Paul for St. Paul, Minnesota. Sandy Panzarella's name is literally Santo is saint in Spanish. His name is literally St. Paul, and the name on the Scotch tape is St. Paul, and that's what he said his name was. So another interesting coincidence. I think you found one, and we've known about 4 or 5 that are like that with Panzarella. Of course, the big one to me is the dragon card, because that meant something, to Zodiac to do that, to show those characters.
Okay, though, but by the way, guys, you were asking about the source for this thing. Did anyone question Ron Allen after ALA and Don Cheney died? This came in about 6 months ago on Black Box Online Radio, just in the comments section. It's in response to my 3-part playlist, The Zodiac Killer's Architecture. This is from Tom Voigt. Says, I'm still in touch with Ron Allen. I wonder how he will react to being libeled and slandered. Surprised Ned allowed this. My bad, sorry. And then
I do remember that. I didn't remember him talking to Ron, though.
So I said, in defense of the guest on the show, he tried to be very careful with his language, saying something like Ron might be a better suspect versus Ron Allen was the Zodiac. He does not state that Ron Allen was the Zodiac, just maybe he would be considered. And then he says, it's your channel. However, Ron is still in the address book of many Zodiac researchers, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets alerted to this. Not by me, though. I shall let nature take its course. So that does suggest that there are other people who have talked to Ron Allen since 2009. Can't verify that 100%, but Tom Voigt did state in the first comment that he has interacted with Ron Allen periodically over the years. And then, and to follow up, though, just to provide some context, I had a guest on the show that was talking about the connections to landscape architecture, and Ron was a landscape architect. This was my interview with Paul Brookbanks. And I said, perhaps Paul is better at wording things than I am, but as he stated, he is not accusing Ron Allen of being the Zodiac killer. And all phraseology aside, Paul has said in his presentation, the more important part is that he believes the Zodiac was familiar with landscape architecture and, more importantly, technical drawing, as Drew brought up at the beginning. It could have been someone else entirely, but he believes the Zodiac had this type of education. Okay, there. So now I'm not getting...
That's where it comes from, yeah. Of course, Ron was a landscape designer.
It's really nice. It's really good.
There's drafting there. He agrees there's drafting.
It's really good.
More inclined to have been something that Ron would have done as opposed to Cheney or Panzarella, who could draft as well. I don't know. Cheney was pretty good. Cheney had a lot of skill sets. I mean, he was as good as civil engineering. Civil engineering is landscape. Cheney was highly skilled at civil engineering as well. He was trained to be a mechanical engineer, but I know for a fact that he did a lot of civil projects and drew civil drawings. I can't really say exactly how I know that, but I have proof of that he did a lot of civil projects and drew them up as well. He just had multiple, but I think we can all agree there's a level of drafting going on.
Yeah, and we have here always the same argument. Panzarella had too much to lose. Exactly, that's my point. He has too much to lose. That's why I think the police will never look at him. And I think they know that. I think they are aware about that Cheney will go on to tell his story to the police, and with Panzarella, and and Cheney will never be being suspect by the police, because Panzarella is a really successful man. He has too much to lose if he was the Zodiac killer. So, and in plus, we will never look at a white man really rich.
It's true. You could look at it either way. Yeah, he'd had a lot to lose because he was starting this giant company that really did very successful company.
I agree.
With a couple other guys from Cal Poly, I don't know their names, but they were with Panzarella starting Science Dynamics. Of course, Panzarella, it was his company. He was the head of it. Don Cheney goes to work for him in the 70s. I can't remember. Maybe I was after Flora. I don't remember. But he stops working for Panzarella, which is interesting. Like, why would you want to give up? That could indicate maybe they were partners in something because they had to get split apart. Because why would Cheney in his right mind give up a job at Science Dynamics, working for a buddy, just hiring and firing, and he made a good salary. He had to, because they were really rolling in money. They were doing extremely well. That company took off like a rocket. Of course, Panzarella eventually sold to General Dynamics.
There are
he had a lot to lose.
Suspects that are affluent individuals, that are rich and prosperous individuals. Shel Cavalli may have been the richest one. Machiavelli
John Cox, another one.
Cox was a very, very well established businessman. He was a transportation executive, if that's a fair thing to call him, more or less running Par Terminal on the Richmond waterfront and so on. These people do get accused of it. Now, Did they ever murder anyone? I mean, it doesn't meet the conventional forms of profiling that people have, but there was a serial killer from the Midwest named Eugene Butler, who was a farmer, but by standards, he was an extremely wealthy farmer. He would have been a present day millionaire because, he owns lots of land and, it's a successful farm. And he went on to become a very deranged and demented serial killer.
Yeah.
It can happen just because somebody has money and has opportunities. That does not mean that they don't commit crimes, because what this just is trying to show is that people think if someone is performing well in life, then they aren't going to commit murder.
Right.
Not quite. Think about all those
really
people who murder their business partners to gain control of the business, murder their spouses for the life insurance money. Well, what about people like Arthur Murdoch, who murdered his family because he's this extremely
very, very wealthy guy,
lawyer,
attorney,
and
right?
He just did a bunch of crap in the shadows, got in a bunch of trouble, and his family was also making more trouble for him. So he murdered them. Well, murdered his wife and his son. And
Bundy.
Yeah, Bundy, exactly. Bundy was not exactly an underperformer.
No,
he wasn't exactly like on par with Shel Cavalli or John Parr Cox or Alec Murdoch, but yes, he was not exactly an underperformer in life either. So I don't really accept it when people just say, "Oh, this person, they had money, therefore they couldn't kill."
Yeah, but it is hard for a normal person to imagine that.
It's hard.
Somebody that had as much as Panzarella did, but I do know that now that Jerome's going back on, I do know this.
I had to reconnect
this about Panzarella, and I've said this before because it's one of those things that I found, was lucky to find when I found it. Now it's gone because his daughter had written a missive of him, I think maybe after he had passed away, and she deleted it off of Facebook. But she stated that her father, despite being so nice looking and so successful, was deeply insecure. Now, that doesn't make him a killer or having anything to do with it, but it's something you wouldn't expect. Because why would you be insecure when you're nice looking and you have tons of money, a great family? That's everything that we think that would make us happy. But she said he had a deep-seated insecurity, which was, but she could not understand why, I guess, but that he did for many years. And I thought that was interesting about him.
I just have one point on that. Now, this is not about Sandy Panzarella because I didn't know the guy, and I'm also not a psychologist. I just read about psychology. And people who have classical narcissism are extremely insecure. So what they do is they create these types of facades to hide their insecurity. And Professor Sam Vodkin talks about this by saying that the classical narcissist puts on a hall of mirrors. And at the core essence of the classical narcissist, they're the scared little child. And not all narcissists function like this, and sociopaths and psychopaths don't function like this. But yes, there'd be an extremely insecure individual who tries to put on the facade the big house, improving their physical appearance, money, accomplishments. Now, I don't know that about Sandy Panzarella. I really don't. I mean, I'd have to spend time with him, and I can't before I could make any type of determinations, and I'm not even a professional. But yes, that type of behavior does exist.
Yeah, and guess the name of the daughter of the son of Panzarella? Everly.
Yeah, he had two sons and a daughter.
So the
daughter,
the granddaughter
that's where
of Santos.
He deleted that post, but it was very interesting. I don't. Did I ever send it to you, Jerome, or I just told you what it said? I don't remember. I don't know if
I've made a screenshot and I keep it
of what the daughter wrote about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting because it was definitely his daughter. She was,
it was his daughter. Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely his daughter. Yeah.
Everly,
they could never understand her why he was so insecure, but that could be true. Maybe that's why he was driven. I don't know. But, that doesn't make him a killer by any means.
No.
But we do have something here from Cat Daddy Steve who says, Sandy was smarter and caught on to Don's BS. How exactly do you mean that, Cat Daddy Steve? Like, what part of that would be? Because as Jerome has laid out, he believes that Sandy was an active participant. So do you think in your own personal theory that Sandy just caught on that Don was BSing people? Because everything that Jerome laid out would indicate that Sandy knows what he's doing and he's following this plan. So I'm not quite sure what that one means. You can drop something in the chat.
I like Cephers Averly. Of course, I love that.
Yeah,
Lee. Of course, you
it's
had the
Everly
phonetic.
with a E,
Yeah,
not a
because
A, but
that's how Zodiac addressed Paul Avery, Lee. Of course, you get
yeah,
phonetic Lee out of that, but also that did Zephyr found a comic book called Mickey Finn, and there's a
yeah,
fictional junior college in that comic book called Lee College, spelled like that, and it's a junior college. So I love that, of course. So
yeah,
if it was ever proven Cheney was a Zodiac, I would bet at least $100 that that's where Lee came from. If he's the Zodiac, okay, I like that explanation for it because comic book Zodiac, we have Tim Holt, a Red Rider, some others maybe that we think could have influenced him. But Lee was a fictional junior college, not just a college, but I think a junior college in Mickey Finn. I don't even know what the comic book was about. It was a comic book called Mickey Finn, and that was a character. But there's a fictional college called Lee College. So Zephyr
yeah,
found that, and I thought that could be it. Maybe Don read
yeah.
that.
It could be.
That's why he's complaining. That means I knew you from junior college, dude. So
Well, yes, Drew, that's what I want to
that's
ask
where
you,
he's
though,
going at.
because we've talked about this a little bit before, but I'm really curious what you would say now. And that is like, it's kind of a two-part question. Firstly, do you think that Paul Avery knew a lot more that was going on than he let on? And the second one is, it's like, do you think that Don Cheney was sending these messages to Paul Avery because it was like, just like, hey, I remember this guy from junior college,
Yes.
so I'm just going to have a laugh? Or do you think that
Yeah.
Paul Avery knew a lot more?
I think he did it for a laugh. I think he did it because he knew him. I mean, he knew of him, and it would have been impossible. Secret pal. I think he knew him. I think he remembered him from junior college. I really do. I mean, because it would have been
How is
impossible for Don
California so
not to know.
small? How do
It is
all these
yeah, it's a
Californians
small.
know each other?
Yeah, this is in Bakersfield in 1952. We're years before Lake Herman Road. We're miles away from LA and San Francisco Bay Area, and this is going on. We have three huge elements going on at Bakersfield Junior College that will come into play. We have the guy, the reporter that's getting direct letters from him, like the Halloween card, who's makes a name for himself writing about this killer for the San Francisco Chronicle. We have the man, like you mentioned, that brings forward the prime suspect, and we have the Mikado being done at that little junior college all in one in 1952 going into 53, which is three big elements of the Zodiac case coming together. But I do think he knew of him. Paul Avery was all over the place. He wrote for the college newspaper. He was ran for class president in 52. He lost. He then becomes the director of student assemblies at Bakersfield Junior High, where every Friday they would have an act coming from Los Angeles. And this wasn't mandatory for students, by the way, but most of them went because they would bring in really good entertainment out of LA, like singers, dancers, actors. And it was pretty top-notch stuff that you would come during like 11 o'clock on a Friday and into the Harvey Auditorium. And I think it would seat about 300 people. And you could see, it didn't cost anything. It was just part of, something they did.
Yeah.
And Avery was the guy that would go out on stage and say, welcome students. I'm Paul Avery, director of student assemblies. Today we're going to have some dancers from LA. They're going to do this for us, blah, blah, blah. And it was like an hour-long deal. So you could not go there and not know who he was. It would be virtually impossible to attend that college and not know Paul Avery. Now, conversely, Avery might not have had a clue who Cheney was, even though I know that his sister, who was 2 or 3 years older than Don, had mutual friends of Paul Avery.
By the way, guys, I mean, seems like we have a Filipino rainstorm going on in the background. I don't know if you can hear that. That's pretty loud, but I'll probably have to get off the stream now. And just want to say once again, thank you to Jerome and for having me on here. I'm Ned Dehan from Black Box Online Radio. Every Monday I do a segment about the Zodiac Killer called Zodiac Monday. And if all goes well, I should also be on the next panel discussion show with Jerome and
tomorrow.
So thank you for this opportunity. And I'm glad we got to talk about his name is Arthur Leigh Allen and do those things on the ABC murders. I shared most of my observations about that. Thanks again.
Great stuff. Thanks,
Thank you,
Ned.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye, Cat Daddy Steve. Much appreciated. All right, bye, guys.
Bye.
See you, man.
Yeah.
That one real quick, Jerome.
Yeah.
He said he wants to know who was the business owner who put the cipher puzzles in the Bakersfield newspaper when Don was a kiddo. Yeah, he was a little older. That is Earl Price. who owned a drafting supply shop that also had photostatic copies, like Xerox copies, which makes me kind of think going back to Chester Clark Kling a little bit. But yeah, it was called Earl Price. It was called Price Prince Pronto. He had maps, stuff like that. He had stuff that mechanical engineers would use, and Don literally lived, I don't know, about 400 feet from Price's shop from 1308 M Street. It was a short walk. And Earl Price would put ciphers in the Bakersfield, California newspaper to solve for prize money. It started as, I can't remember, I think it was $10, which, God, that in today's money, that's almost like 100, like quite a bit of money. And that's my belief where Don picked up on ciphers, because nobody else was doing that. It started in 49. I think he did it through 55. When Don was still in high school going into Bakersfield Junior College, Earl Price was doing ciphers in the newspapers. And I know even David Aranchek, who, famously led the team that solved the 340 cipher, picked up on those ciphers, and he republished them on a cipher website showing Earl Price's ciphers that were in the papers. But yeah, it was Earl Price, and that's my belief where Don Cheney got introduced to ciphers, because I think it's a given that Don Cheney would have frequented that shop. I don't have a report of Don ever solving one of Earl's ciphers, because I'm sure a lot of people did. There's a few that would solve them quite a bit, that did get into the paper. Don wasn't one of them, but he was already practicing as a mechanical engineer before he went into the Air Force. And because it lists him living at home at 1308 M Street in Bakersfield, and it says mechanical engineer. He was already doing that before he got formal training at Cal Poly. So he lives a walking distance from somewhere that sells all the stuff he's going to need to be one. So I think is a pretty safe assumption that he shopped at Earl's shop, at least.
Yeah, I agree. We have a question here from Dustin. How did Don Cheney fool so many people being that sneaky? Why did Ron not see through his bullshit about Arthur Leigh Allen?
That's a good question. Who knows? I mean, Ron could have had something going there. That's a great question. I know the police talked to Ron at the time. I guess they didn't really suspect him. Of course, they didn't really suspect Don either. I guess Ron was married at the time. So there was some credibility there. I think that's one of the things that hurt Arthur Leigh Allen, that he was unmarried at the time, and these other guys were already married. So they had that kind of, thing going for them. They just looked a little more respectable, where Arthur Leigh Allen was just this kind of creepy guy that was interested in kids. So it was a really easy fall guy. I think Ron and Don both had some credibility.
Yeah, it makes sense. At the time in 1970, it was people who were married had more credibility than one single man. Yeah.
I don't know if Ron's daughter was born yet. I don't know how old she is, but of course Don's kids were born in the 60s, so they were already there. But married with a young family, even when he came forward in 71, do you think they would have been, like, why did you wait so long? Why it really
the question who turn in my head all the time. What do you wait so long to?
I love that. Wait, let me put that one. Can you put that one up from Dustin? I like that comment. No, above Cat Daddies. Put that up. How did DC fool so many people being that snarky? I'm gonna stop right there. That is the word that I use to describe both Zodiac and Don Cheney, because I think are one and the same. Snarky. Yeah. That is the word. That is, I don't know if there's an equivalent to that in French, Jerome, but that's a American word. Snarky is the word. Is the word that I use. Snarky. Here's a good example. When Don Cheney in this video that you were showing, Don Cheney talks about Arthur Leigh Allen telling him what he'd like to do to some girl at Lake Herman Road. And then he says to end it, he goes, and he told me what he'd like to do to some girl there. And it wasn't pretty. That's the definition of snarky. That's a snarky comment. And it wasn't pretty. Well, of course it wasn't pretty. He's going to kill her.
No.
But Don saying that is snarky. Just like Zodiac, they're snarky. That is the word. I love it because that's what I think they both are.
Yeah, there is
Snarky.
the word in French means sarcastic.
Yeah,
Sarcastic.
it's kind of in America, it's a little different. Because
Yeah,
sarcastic would just be blatantly sarcastic, where snarky is more like it wasn't pretty.
yeah, yeah,
It's got its own meaning.
yeah. But it's the Google translation that I use who told me it's sarcastic in French, snarky in English.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You
So
need to put
yeah.
that in the context.
Yeah, and you see a lot of Zodiac in the letters where he'll add something like that. Rub your face in your boo boos, and
Yeah,
very snarky tone. The tone of Zodiac in the letters is very snarky. Rub your faces in it, and you could have caught me last night. The whole taunting. That's taunting, but but some of the comments are very snarky
yeah.
from Zodiac and so many of the letters.
Oh, Rob is writing in French. It means mocker and sarcastic. So mocker, it's about mockery, you know,
Yeah,
mockery, and sarcastic. And
so
it's
that's probably
sarcastic.
equivalent because there's probably not an exact translation of the word snarky.
No, not exactly. And you like I said, you need to put that in a context.
Yeah,
So
Cat Daddy.
and
Snarky is a mix of negativity and ego. That's a good way of saying it. Is that like
yeah,
a Webster? Is that like a Webster's definition? That's interesting.
a mix of negative and
Mix of
ego.
negativity and ego. I like that.
Yeah, me too. Like a mix of negativity and ego. And we know that the Zodiac has a huge ego. And we have a question for you here, Drew. Could you read it, or did I
It
need
says,
to?
could Paul Avery have been Don's eyes and ears into the case when it comes to what the police were doing at the time, and that being the whole reason for writing to the Chronicle? I don't know. I mean, I guess that would imply that Avery had more to do with it. I don't see it. I don't see it.
No, me
I know
neither.
that Paul Avery was really, once he was done with the Zodiac, he was done with it. He didn't even really like to bring it up much. I know his daughter very well, Kristen.
Yeah,
She told me that a lot. I've talked to her on the phone a lot. She said, man, he just wanted to move on. When he
yeah,
was writing Voices of Guns, he had moved on to that thing, and he was just done with Zodiac. He didn't really care.
yeah,
I mean, he didn't make some ton of money by reporting on it. He got some notoriety out of it, but I don't think it would have been to the point to where he would have been a participant or working in tandem with somebody. I don't see it there. I mean,
no,
Avery's the kind of guy that would, he literally was, and his daughter told me this. He's the kind of guy that would he smoked a lot. He'd say, can I borrow your lighter? Somebody's nice lighter, and he'd make it a point not to give it back. I mean, that's Paul Avery.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
just that kind of guy. I don't think he had any real malicious intent
No,
at all.
no, I don't think so neither. And no, um,
Yeah, I don't know if Joe D'Angelo was snarky. Guy certainly was sadistic, though. D'Angelo was very sadistic.
yeah. The Golden State Killer.
Just a nasty guy. Just a nasty guy.
Yeah,
Of course,
yeah,
he was,
yeah.
I think he's a terrible fit for Zodiac for a lot of reasons. I know about the connections, around Paul Stein, because he's in and around that same area where Stein comes from, Exeter. But first of all, he's a little too young for Zodiac. Too, he's a rapist. He started out as a Vasilla ransacker, peeping Tom, and then he's like a petty
Yeah,
thief,
yeah,
and that would have been after the Zodiac. I mean, the Zodiac was organized.
yeah.
You're not going to go from being the Zodiac, all the taunting and never getting caught, to stealing panties. I just don't see
No.
that. That's a really weird. You'd be like going in reverse at that point. These
Yeah,
killers evolve, like D'Angelo evolved. He evolved from this peeping Tom to a petty thief to rapist to killing and raping. A power killer. He was a true power killer, is what they call it. You're
yeah.
not going to start being Zodiac, going
No,
undetected with all the letters and ciphers, and then starting over as a peeping Tom.
no,
The evolution's not there.
no.
Like somebody said once about D'Angelo being Zodiac, he would have to throw out every criminology textbook that was ever written. if he turns out to be Zodiac. And I know
Yeah.
people like maybe Zodiac being a cop or whatever, or we're talking about Richard Hoffman a lot lately,
Yeah.
and they see that. I think they're just stuck on the fact that D'Angelo was a cop. And, he did know forensics enough. I mean, D'Angelo got away with it other than the technology with DNA caught up with him, unfortunately. And from what I remember, it wasn't even, him being a multiple, with multiple rapes. You think there would have been a lot of the DNA out there for him, and there really wasn't.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think they got and there was, but I don't think it was all collected that well. I think it
No.
was only one case that was collected well that led to his
Yeah.
capture.
Yeah. It's a shame because in this kind of case, you need to be very careful with the proof, and they were not really. So we have two options here, Drew. We continue the deep dive on the video together, or we can make an episode 2 with Ned.
Yeah, let's do a part 2. It's kind of
Yeah.
late here, but we'll do it 2. Yeah, because that's a
Yeah,
lot of
okay.
fun.
Yeah. It was really fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very.
and I might show some of the stuff that since Drewser couldn't make it on. I'll share something that he did with the Cheney's handwriting tomorrow.
Yeah. We have tomorrow. We have a show.
Yeah, he's great. Somebody mentioned Drewser earlier. He's a good, brilliant guy. Really knows the letters well. So does Richard. But I love the fact that Drewser focuses so much on the written correspondence. And one thing that I'd love Drewser to look into is the micro printing aspect of was Zodiac showing smaller images inside stuff like the dripping pen. I think it's called micro printing, and I think Peter Ackerman looked into this. Peter Ackerman's a big proponent of Arthur Leigh Allen, who does a blog and finds a lot of Arthur Leigh Allen influence in the letters and stuff. But I think he was gonna got into some of the micro printing. But it'd be cool if Drewser could look into that too.
And he's really good. Really. Yes, he's impartial.
Very.
Very impartial. So it's good to have people like this because we can talk and we can argue and we can have all different idea about our suspect and learn about something. We can be wrong or we can be right. It's
that's true. Hey, Rob makes it. That's interesting. Rob saying that Ron suspected his brother but couldn't accuse him. That's interesting. Yeah, to think of it that way. Ron suspected his brother but couldn't accuse him, so he went to Sandy and Don to do the dirty work. That could be true if it was all Allen, and then the problem is, if you have to accept that that could be true if Allen is the Zodiac and Allen is the attacker. And if you go back to what I just said about Allen at Berryessa is a stretch. It's very difficult for me personally to put Arthur Leigh Allen in the attacker role at Lake Berryessa. It's just for a million reasons. But the hair coming through the eyelets, I think it's absurd to think someone would wear a wig under a hood. Arthur Leigh Allen was primarily left-handed. Ambidextrous or not, you're not going to show up with a gun in your non-dominant hand. That's absurd. Berryessa was a right-handed attack. And I lay out all the reasons that Arthur Leigh Allen is a horrible fit for Berryessa. Horrible.
Absolutely.
Of course, he's totally bald. He's a terrible fit for the attacker at Berryessa.
But he has a problem with it. If one of his leg, I think.
Yes, he had gout in his feet. Brian Hartnell said he walked briskly towards them.
Yeah.
He had to make a long walk to go from the Berryessa Knoxville Road down to the attack site, which is a peninsula called Double Oak Ridge. Allen wasn't briskly walking anywhere in 69. He just wasn't. And Arthur Leigh Allen was a very good diver, college champ, high school champ with Voyeur plunge. But they said of Arthur Leigh Allen, like once he would walk up to the diving board to dive, he looked terrible. Like he could hardly get up there. But once he did his dive, he was poetry in motion.
He's
a great diver, but he was not a good walker or not a runner. But he was already kind of having trouble then. But he could still, once he jumped off the board, he looked great. But he was just not getting around well, even at 69. So, and of course, as I mentioned, Brian Hartnell interacted with Allen at the Ace Hardware and said that's not the guy. He was confident that was not the person that attacked him in Sicilia. So this is a horrible blow against anybody that wants to make Allen the sole Zodiac killer of all four canonical crimes, because Berryessa, it's just almost impossible that Arthur Leigh Allen is attacking Brian and Cecilia Berryessa, in my
I
opinion.
do agree. I do agree. I do agree. And in the movie, it's Grace Smith who goes to the store at the end of the movie, but it's in fact it's not Grace Smith. It's Brian Hartnell who goes to the stores and look at Alan and say no, it was not this guy. But in the movie, it's portrayed like this. It's I don't know why. I don't know why Grace Smith had explained that like this. I don't know.
It'll be interesting with this documentary coming out, which maybe I let the cat out of the bag, but it's good. I mean, you could read the because you're the first person that put it up. That's the first time I saw it is when you put up the link for it, Jerome, on Netflix. It's going to be about Arthur Leigh Allen, and they're talking to a family. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that's the Seawaters. I do know that the person that the confession was given to from Arthur Leigh Allen about being the Zodiac was to Dave Seawater, and Dave, from what I found, passed away about 1.5 years ago. So maybe some of this was filmed with Dave before he died, because I found his obituary. It was in California, and it's a pretty uncommon name, and it mentioned that he was a musician. Of course, Dave Seawater was a musician, so I'm pretty sure it's our guy. So maybe they filmed him before he passed away. And that could have been when they pulled their content off of YouTube. But the documentary is going to be about, of course, Arthur Leigh Allen and the memories of the Seawater family.
And what does your thought about this family, the claim of this family?
Well, they claim, like I mentioned, like Dave, they knew him in the early '60s. They did know him. There's nobody contests the fact that they knew him. He was friend. Arthur Leigh Allen was friends with their mother. I think it was two brothers, Dave, and the sister Connie.
And
I think Connie was the sister. Yeah, and Alan supposedly, I think, had an interest in the sister or something. But he wrote them letters. But of course, one of the biggest claims was Arthur Leigh Allen confessed to being Zodiac to Dave. I think on a phone call, if I remember correctly. And then another one they claimed was that they were with Arthur Leigh Allen driving in his Austin Healey for the Dominguez Edward murders. And they
were there in the
Lompoc in the beach. I can't remember the name of the dang beach. Gaviota Beach. Sorry. Gaviota Beach. And that Allen was down there, and they think this was around 62 when it happened or whatever. No, that was 63. Yeah. Dave is 62. 63 is Gaviota. Sorry. Sometimes I get off a little bit. But that Arthur Leigh Allen came back to the car during that time covered in blood. And then they're really reaching here. And then they try to claim that they went up to Riverside with Allen, and that he was acting strange or whatever. But the really crazy claim was that Arthur Leigh Allen coming back to the car covered in blood. Of course, nobody really believed that. They thought it was kind of far-fetched. Maybe he did confess to Dave, Yeah, I don't think the Seawaters are bad people, but I think they really embellished it.
Yeah, I think so, because they were kids, and if you are kids and you see let's say your uncle, or I don't know, a friend of your family comes back to the car cover completely with blood and stuff like this, you will almost asking question, not maybe to the guy, but maybe to your mother, or to why Uncle Lee was covered in blood. I don't know.
If Arthur Leigh Allen is a Zodiac, he, which any profile on Zodiac, even if they're not naming who they think it is, it's just like Korsgaard's book, or some others, maybe Michael Cole's, who don't hone in on suspects. Michael Cole's books are great. The 3 series books are wonderful, and so is Soren Korsgaard's book about the profiles of Zodiac, but they all describe him as an organized serial killer. An organized serial killer is not going to leave kids in the car and come back covered in blood. He's just not going to do it. Which goes back to Allen. If you like Allen as a sole Zodiac, why on God's green earth would he just go to all this trouble with encryption and the my name is cipher just to blab it all to Don Cheney. I'm gonna do all this, and I'm gonna hide my name, and I'm gonna talk to
No.
press. But hey, Don, I'm gonna do all this, but don't tell anybody. I mean, give me a break. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely ridiculous. We have a question here from Mike. Do you think Z really had a crew cut?
He could have had something of a crew cut by the Presidio attack, where of course the sketch that shows a crew cut with a widow's peak, and I know that's what Falk called it. So I'm sure Vince doesn't love that, but of course Don Cheney had a distinct widow's peak. But one thing I would bet the farm on, no matter who somebody thinks Zodiac is, show me all the players. And on September 27th of 1969, if there's one that had hair long enough to come through those eyelets, that's my guy. That's my guy.
Cheney,
that's my guy right there. I don't care who, even if it's not Cheney and it's somebody else. If you show me Geik, you show me whoever who could be, even ever brought forward as a suspect. Show me a guy that on that day had hair that was long enough in the middle to come through those eyes. I haven't had a haircut in a while. And, if I was doing that, it might barely come out of the eyelid of the mask, so
I agree 100%.
It would have to be the guy that had hair long enough to do that. And of course, I have that picture of Cheney in 75 where he's growing it long in the middle like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it looks. I don't have any pictures of him from 69. But my guy's going to be the one that had hair that long, his natural hair, enough to grow it to go down through the eyelids, not a wig.
I do agree 100%, Drew. 100%. So we will do a part 2 of this show.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun because you are all really clever, and it's really interesting to talk with different people who have different theory. So we have almost the same theory, but it's not exactly the same. But we have the same guy, Cheney. So I'm sure about him, and about Panzarella and Ron Allen. It's about a theory. So I cannot really prove that it's true, but I think it fits with what was going on, and it's the same for you, Drew. Your theory fits with what was going on at the time. So, I mean, it's always good to have a different point of view of different people, and don't fight each other. And there is no way. I have tell to Ray Grant that he could be part of this panel, but he need to accept the critic and accept to be challenged.
Oh,
Me,
yeah.
I accept completely to be challenged about my theory, and I accept to be completely wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't know everything.
New information. That's what
Yeah.
That's what you do. And I'm not out to convince everybody. I'm not.
No.
No. There's the work. If you think that paradise is a coincidence, that's fine. I'm just saying it's here. But like I said, with my theory, those are just pieces I found later. I had already made
you already
I made
wrote
the Paradise or even Avery or Air Force or anything with Cheney. It was all based on his own statements. That I think he incriminates himself enough with his own statements.
Oh yeah, a lot. Yeah, a lot. I will just check where we are in the video. Oh, we are just in 6 minutes of a 35-minute video. So maybe do a part 2 and a part 3 because there is a lot to talk again about Cheney and Panzarella and other, because we have other people in the video. Suggestion. Gray Hughes as YouTube call in chat where we can call in live. Gray Hughes.
Every time I've seen these people that like take the calls, Of course, like Cat Daddy, I would let on because I've known
I,
him for a while. He's been around a long time. Most of these people like we've
I,
seen
I,
before, but every time
I
they let on
know him.
somebody that you've never heard of, they
No.
start saying like racial slurs or something. It's like really a train wreck. But that is a good suggestion.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody is welcome, really. But you need to accept the critic. You need to accept to be challenged, because if you don't, there is no debate. There is nothing. Here
Yeah,
we
yeah, it
debate.
makes you better. I've been challenged a lot.
Oh yeah.
I
A
did the
lot.
debate with Truther, who's still, Cheney's not on his suspect list, and I appreciate that because I love his research
Oh
and
yeah.
I love conversing with him because he's got great stuff. Like he sent me some great Cheney stuff. So if I had
Yeah.
made an enemy out of him, I wouldn't get that.
No.
So it's I don't hold anything against somebody that doesn't agree with me on any case.
No. No. But
You can find a lot by just coming together.
but it's not the same point of view that everybody has. Uh, See, if we try to invite Mr. D, Mr. TV, you see what Tom?
He wouldn't do
Uh,
it anyway.
he will no, never,
He
because
would decline.
he will stick on his position and never be uh, agree to be challenged. Never.
Yeah, just
Never.
it's
So
good to have an open mind. I mean, I look at
yeah,
anybody's theory.
yeah, absolutely.
I
And
don't
that's
think
why
Doer's a
we
bad
do this
suspect. I
kind
think
of
he's an interesting guy. I think that was
yeah,
a Kobek's approach to Doer was. I thought that was kind of different. I kind of liked it.
yeah, yeah. But
So
it's same for me. I'm watching everywhere. I'm still open-minded, and I I take everything we everything's theory. I mean, I don't see the problem, but there is some people who don't accept to be criticized and to don't be challenged, and it's sad because we are here for the seeking of the truth, and for the victim's family to try to figure out who was responsible for this crime, this horrible crime, and we are not here for
yeah,
fighting
the,
each other,
the
fighting
police aren't
against
trying to
each
solve
other.
it. I can tell you that they're
Yeah,
trying to solve recent cases. They're not.
yeah,
Nobody's
yeah.
digging into this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a lot of case, and in now today there is a lot of case. I was talking with Sharon the other day. You remember Sharon, my
Oh
friend
yeah,
in
Sharon's
Scotland?
great,
Sharon is, oh, she's so lovely,
great
and
person.
we were yeah, really great. She's so how, and we were talking about a case that I didn't know anything about, and she was explaining to me the situation, and I was not aware at all about this case. There is a lot of case we can talk about uh, to try to figure out what did happen for for the family, for the victim, for everybody. That's why we try to do this round table, to try to go forward and try to understand if we are wrong or we are right, or where's the we try to do our best, in fact, but not everybody's okay with that. It's sad. It's really
Yeah,
sad.
yep. But we got a big group of guys that do this.
Oh yeah,
Ned, Ross, you.
that yeah,
It's a big group of guys now, which is great.
Richard,
It's getting bigger.
yeah,
Richard, absolutely, Richard, man.
Druser,
Nobody
yeah.
knows. No single person knows more about this case than Richard Grinnell.
Oh no, Richard
He's an
is
encyclopedia. He's a living encyclopedia of the
yeah,
case, and of course,
yeah,
his
really.
website is great. His website is
Oh
fantastic.
yeah, zodiaccipher.com.
The
Oh yeah,
best.
go on zodiaccipher.com. Is the best site about the zodiac. You can find
Yeah, it could take
everything.
like a lifetime to read it all. There's so much information there.
Oh yeah, he has read 5,000 page, I think.
Yeah, it's
He has
great stuff.
wrote five.
And he's
Yeah,
constantly updating it with new articles.
yeah, constantly, and it's not a website who still like this. It's involved. Is changing all the time, and you have all the time new stuff, and it's really a good researcher, and is its website is really amazing. It's amazing the amount of information you can find on it. I never saw that. Really, I never saw that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, stuff you never even thought of.
DB Cooper Corn. How about Zodiac convention?
That's an interesting. They used to have some Zodiac. I don't think it was
I
an
don't know.
annual. They had something way back in the day. I know Butterfield was there. They had something in San Francisco that was kind of like a CooperCon type, but there's no annual deal. Man,
No.
that would be a weird. That would be a weird. I try to
Yeah.
figure out that. I could imagine
Yeah,
some
but
of that.
yeah.
There might be some fist fighting in the hallways. I don't know. CooperCon can get rowdy enough.
Yeah.
But that's an
Yes,
interesting.
San Diego PD has Cold Case Detective Squad. Yeah, San Diego. I mean, everywhere you have Cold Case, but we cannot do everything. It's impossible. You see, we are talking about one subject, and it's almost 3 hours of live that we are talking about one subject. But we try to do our best. Drew, it's for you. Drew is the man when it comes to the Yuba 5.
It's me and Tony Wright and a couple and three other guys. I think there's 5 of us that really are deep divers.
Yeah,
And-
it's
Eduardo, Doug Harkins. There's like 5 of us that have a private group that do Yuba stuff, and we were into the deep stuff. Like
it's also a strange
hardcore 5
case.
guys. Yeah, 5
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah, and it's also a strange case, the Yuba County 5.
Oh
When
yeah,
you deep dive in it,
it's crazy.
it's really strange. It's really, there is some stuff who doesn't make sense, and stuff who makes sense. But you have wrote a book about it, and it's a great book. I recommend.
Thanks, man.
To the audience, if they want to buy Zodiac's book, it's Back 25. But Drew, you can name your own book, because I don't remember. There is Paratrooper of Fortune, about Ted Braden.
Yep.
To be DB Cooper, and I think you're right about that. But I've not
some
so
new
much
Cooper
knowledge.
documents. Some new Cooper documents got released by the FBI the past couple of days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're still releasing documents from the Cooper case. A lot of it's redacted, but this particular one was from it doesn't say, but it was like a parachute expert, maybe a paratrooper, that the FBI was interviewing just about what kind of person could have pulled off this jump under these circumstances, and how many people that he thought could have done this jump at night under these conditions, the way Cooper did it. And he said, I think he said the expert they consulted with said extremely few. I think it was the words he used. Like there's a few people on the earth that could have pulled this off and lived. And Braden's one of them. He was just that good, Very few people could have pulled that jump off to live.
Yeah, it's nothing to jump from
at night
like
with an unmarked drop zone.
Night.
Yeah, the night element is what makes it so much harder to land it.
Because
you don't know when the ground's coming up. You can't see where you're going.
No, anything
out of a jet. Yeah, the guy said the person absolutely had a lot of experience with high altitude jumps. Was with the expert that the FBI interviewed with, back in the day. Of course, Braden was a pioneer in Halo, which is high altitude, low opening. So yeah, he was a high altitude a jumper already. So he's one of the few people on Earth that could have done the jump.
Yeah,
a small amount of people could have done it.
I have learned a lot with your book, because I was not really in DB Cooper, because it's not a crime to steal 2,000 books to the States. So I was not really in DB Cooper, but when I have read your book, uh, for me it fits. It fits. And did you have already heard the theory about Edward Hunt,
Yeah,
CIA
yeah.
operative?
Mhm.
Yeah, because there is this story about maybe him to be DB Cooper.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think
Most,
about
mo-
that. If
yeah, most of these guys couldn't pull the jump off. Like this document says, it's
oh yeah,
you had to be a highly skilled. This wasn't any novice that pulled that off. I mean, unless he died, of course you could have that theory, but to pull that jump off and live with the dark at night in that
it's
drop
really a
zone with
tough
no
thing to do. Yeah,
with cloud cover, you can't see through the clouds. Uh, to even have done it like that way, you had to just somebody that knew how to
or
jump from high
you
altitudes. It's
really
very, very few.
yeah, or you really had to be really lucky because
Yeah, the FBI
is
lost
the
the
DI
cigarette
lost the
butts.
cigarette butt.
They lost
Uh,
him. Yeah, of course, there was
yeah,
no
I
DNA,
think it
but
was destroyed.
the FBI doesn't. Yeah, they destroyed him. They finally
Yeah,
found the document where they admitted to destroying them. Why would you do that? If you ever got him in court and you wanted to prove what brand
yeah,
he smoked, you don't have the cigarettes anymore. They'd have to throw that out.
no,
Man, I know this guy was Cooper. He smoked Raleigh filter tips. Well,
yeah,
well, we know how do you know he smoked Raleighs? Well, because we had the cigarettes. Well, where are
yeah.
they? Oh, we destroyed them.
Doesn't make
Strike
sense.
that. It's just that it makes no sense.
Makes no sense. And that's where I see it was not me who had made this observation, but they were talking, not in a documentary, in a chat, they were talking about E. Howard Hunt to being a CIA operative,
Yeah,
to
it
have
could have been,
enough
but he wasn't a
power
parachute. He wasn't
on
a
the
parachute.
FBI.
So yeah.
No, but to know, he has so much power that he can do everything with the FBI. And
Oh yeah. Oh
uh,
yeah. They had a lot of
and that's
the
true. The
CIA knew
CIA
who
was
Cooper was. The CIA knew who Cooper
yeah.
was.
Oh yeah,
Wholly
I'm sure
unsolved
the CIA
hijacking is
knew. Yeah,
preposterous. The CIA knew who it was.
I'm sure
Come
that the
on. Of
CIA
course
knew.
they did.
Yeah,
They did, and that doesn't mean they told the FBI. They don't have to tell the FBI anything.
no,
CIA has to tell the FBI nothing. They are not obligated to say a word, especially higher ups. They don't care. They could let the FBI go spin their wheels for years looking for the right guy when they always knew who it was. They could
yeah.
care less.
And what about your actuality, Drew?
The what?
What about your actuality? Your actuality, your sorry. Uh, what comes next for you?
Oh, okay.
New show, new book, new.
Not sure. Not sure.
Not
It's
sure.
working with my editor on a really intense Zodiac, a scientific report on Zodiac.
Great.
It'll be this theory in a scientific form
What
for a
really
PhD peer reviewed journal. And
great.
it's a lot of work. It's not going to be a long article, but it's extremely thorough and detailed and reviewed by PhDs. So it's going to really lay this out, what we're talking about now,
Yeah,
in a very methodical way.
great.
So
Wow.
hopefully
Yeah,
that'll
it
get
will be great.
wrapped up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, insane. I'm excited. I'm really excited. So, we will do a second show, maybe a third one. I don't know. We will see. But tomorrow we have a show about the Zodiac at 10 p.m. Belgian time. So it must be 3 o'clock for you, Drew. But I know you are not free. You are
I could
working,
try. Yeah. I think,
but you
yeah, I've
can
got
try.
something tomorrow. Yeah, I'll try.
So uh, yeah, we will do a part 2 of this show, analysis of Donald Lee, Cheney, and Santo Paul Panzarella, episode 2, next time with Ned, and I hope Druser, and even if Richard want to come to continue the discussion about that, we will do that, but we will see you tomorrow for the next show, the episode 5, about the mystery of the Zodiac Killer. It's tomorrow, uh, 10 p.m. Belgian time. It's 3 p.m. CTS time, I think. Maybe 4. I'm not sure. There is a different
Yeah,
gap
different time
of
zones.
6 or 7 hours between us. So you need to check out, but you just need to put the notification bell, and you will be aware about the time of the show. But it's 10 p.m. Belgian time, and I think it's 3 p.m. 3 p.m. for Drew, who lives in Texas, Houston, Texas.
That's right.
So, Drew, it was really great to have you tonight.
You too, Jerome.
Because-
Thanks. And thanks to Ned.
And thank you. Thank you very much to Ned. Thank you also to you, Drew. I recommend people to subscribe to your channel, the True Crime and Missing People, the Zodcast. You can find the link in the description below. For Ned, is the same, Black Box Online Radio. For Richard Grinnell, you can find, he has a YouTube channel, but there is not a lot. But Richard has a YouTube channel, but zodiaccipher.com, and Druser had no YouTube channel and no Facebook and no Twitter, but Druser is really excellent for everything. I mean,
It's great.
He's really great, and Richard too, and I mean everybody. You too, Drew. You are excellent. It was a great talk. It was a great show. Thank you very much to have take your time to do that. Thank you very much, and
Thanks, Jerome.
Thank you to everyone in the chat. We will see you tomorrow.
See you soon.
See you soon, and we will do a part 2 of this discussion as soon as possible. See you tomorrow.
See you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jerome.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.